We're going to call the December 8th, 2015 Caroline County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Board members present, Mr. Floyd Thomas representing the Mattapanai District, Mr. Jeff Black representing the Western Caroline District, Mr. Reginald Underwood representing the Reedy Church District, Mr. Wayne Akers representing the Madison District, Mr. Jeff Seeley representing the Bowling Green District, and I'm Calvin Taylor. I represent the Port Royal District. If we would have invocation, Mr. Thomas, would you do our invocation, please? Yes. Thank you.
To stand with me, let us bow our heads, close our eyes, and open our hearts. Dear Father God, we come before you today, first to thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for your grace. We thank you for your mercy. We thank you for not giving us the things we deserved when we didn't deserve them. And we thank you for giving us way more than we ever deserved in life. We ask you now, Lord, one more blessing, if you would watch over this board, watch over our friends and family, and in this special time, during this special season, we ask the blessing of peace. The peace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with us this season, today, tomorrow, and forevermore. These and all blessings we ask in his name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, no amendments to the agenda.
Okay, Mr. Underwood.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, last meeting we talked about, there was a discussion about dormitories at the Virginia Sports Complex. I'd like to bring that back and have the board discuss that again today at some point during the meeting. Yep.
Okay, we could put that on unfinished business maybe? So 6A. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir. Any other amendments? If not, then the agenda will stand approved as presented with the one amendment added by Mr. Underwood. And at this time, I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Jeff Seeley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This evening, we are going to recognize two board members, the recognition of Mr. Wayne Akers and the recognition of Mr. Calvin Taylor for the service on the Board of Supervisors.
Do you have the motion?
I do
The
believe
resolution?
the resolutions are here. You are correct, Mr. Underwood. Can we go to opening board comments first?
Sure.
Let us go to opening board comments. Mr. Thomas?
Give me 1 second, Mr. Seeley. I believe I have none today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Black?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Underwood?
Just a couple, Mr. Chairman. Of course, I attended the senior gala this year, and I'm happy that this board supported that effort. They were very pleased. There were over 650 of our seniors who got an opportunity to come out and enjoy the beginning of the holiday season, so that was outstanding. Also, I'm glad that Mr. Nelson is here. As you know, we had another fatality on Jericho Road, and I think we need to have a discussion about Jericho Road. This is getting to be a situation where, regardless of when we do a study and the study says we shouldn't do anything and people continue to lose their life, it tells us that something is wrong and we have to correct it. So I want to have that conversation with Mr. Nelson regarding Jericho Road, but I'm glad he is here and doing the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Mr. Akers?
No, sir.
I have none at this time. Mr. Taylor?
I have none.
All right, we'll move on to presentations, recognition. The glare is tremendous up here. Tonight, we are recognizing two fellow board members. I will start with Mr. Akers. Mr. Wayne Akers served the people of Caroline County with honor and distinction as a member of the Board of Supervisors representing the Madison District for 28 years, from January 1, 1988 to December 31st, 2015. And whereas Mr. Akers served as chairman of the Board of Supervisors in 1990, 1992, 1999, 2001, 2005, 2009, and 2012. And whereas as immeasurable contributions and dedication as a member of the Board of Supervisors have resulted in significant and well-evident progress that will be enjoyed by citizens of Caroline County for many years to come. And whereas Mr. Akers has devoted countless hours of personal time and energy to serving his constituents and trying to make decisions that are in the best interest of the county. And whereas his sound judgment, knowledge, and demeanor have facilitated these accomplishments and earned the respect and admiration of the citizens of the county. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Caroline County that Wayne Akers is hereby recognized and commended for his dedicated service to the citizens of Caroline County, and is presented this resolution as a token of his high esteem in which he is held. Let it further be resolved that Caroline County Board of Supervisors extends its best wishes and to his family for his continued success in all future endeavors. Signed, adopted this 8th day of December 2015, Charles M. Cully, Clerk of the Board, Calvin Taylor, Chairman. Mr. Akers? You know how that microphone works.
Yeah, I do know how this one works, and sure, I'd like to say a few words. Like any public servant, most of the time we'll have a lot to say. But I want to say to the people of Caroline County, and especially the Madison District, it has been my pleasure and my honor to have served them for the last 28 years. I realize that when you serve for that length of time, you're not going to make everybody happy. Generally speaking, when you take a vote, you make 50% mad and 50% happy. And that has happened to me over the years, I'm sure. But it has been a pleasure. I feel confident that I leave Caroline County in a much better position today than it was when I arrived in 1988. As you look at the Madison District has certainly grown. It's prospered. It has helped this county prosper over the years. And I'm very proud of that. I walk away from this position tonight with my head held high and with a true belief that I've made a difference in Caroline County, but not just by myself. If I hadn't had the help of the fellow board members, I could not have done it. One board member, I can assure you, cannot do a great deal by itself. It takes the board working together as a team, and we have been successful. I do pray and trust that this board will come together and be a team, a true team, and put personal feelings aside and do what is best. And I'm confident that they will do that. Staff, we have a tremendous staff here in Caroline County. One that I am extremely proud of and have been proud of the staff that we've been able to put together in Caroline County over the last 28 years. The citizens of Caroline County have been most fortunate in the caliber of staff that we in Caroline have been able to attract and to maintain. So again, I wish staff well, and I wish the board well, and Godspeed to the citizens of Caroline County, and especially the Madison District. And I appreciate your support in the past.
Wayne, one more thing. When I first came on the board, I was the youngest board member there was, and obviously times have changed. I'm no longer the youngest, and I'm now the most senior board member after tonight. But on behalf of the board, we wanted to give you a small token of the county's appreciation. This is actually my gavel, but forever your gavel. So Wayne, thanks a lot for everything. We appreciate it. And that's it.
Mr. Taylor, Mr. Calvin B. Taylor served the people of Caroline County with honor and distinction as a member of the Board of Supervisors representing the Port Royal District for 20 years, from January 1, 1992 to December 31, 2007, and from January 1, 2012 to December 31, 2015. Whereas Mr. Taylor served as chairman of the Board of Supervisors in 1994, 1998, 2002, 2004, and 2015, and whereas his immeasurable contributions and dedication as a member of the Board of Supervisors have resulted in significant and well-evident progress that will be enjoyed by citizens of Caroline County for many years to come. And whereas Mr. Taylor has devoted countless hours of personal time and energy to serving his constituents and trying to make decisions that are in the best interest of the county. And whereas his sound judgment, knowledge, and demeanor have facilitated these accomplishments and earned the respect and admiration of the citizens of the county. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Caroline County that Calvin B. Taylor is hereby recognized and commended for his dedicated service to citizens of Caroline County, and is presented this resolution as a token of his high esteem in which he is held. And be it further resolved that Caroline County Board of Supervisors extends its best wishes to him and his family for continued success in future endeavors. Adopted this 8th day, December 2015, Charles M. Cully, Jr., Clerk of the Board, Jeffrey M. Seeley, Vice Chairman. Mr. Taylor, congratulations. How's that?
Good.
First, to my fellow board members and the staff and all of those citizens who are here, you know, it has really been my pleasure to serve in Caroline County. I never dreamed that when I walked out of this building in 1969 as a senior and went on to Virginia Union University and then to Virginia Commonwealth, I never believed that I would get the opportunity to serve as I have. With the school system, they allowed me to serve. The parents allowed me to work with their students. And then the citizens of the Port Royal District had enough faith in me to give me 5 terms of office. And I'm just eternally grateful. I'm eternally grateful to my mom and my dad and my wife and my children because they have supported me, and certainly the people of the Port Royal District and these board members that are here have supported me. And in closing, I would say the staff has been excellent, as has been said. And one thing about Caroline County, we may not always agree, but I've never walked by either one of these gentlemen and not spoken. And neither one of them have ever done that to me. We've had our times, we've disagreed, we've agreed, we've laughed, we fussed. But at the end of the day, we did what we had to do to make Caroline County the fine place that it is. And that's the thing that I'm most proud of. You're not going to always agree, and that's a good thing sometimes. But in the end, it's all about what's best for the citizens of this county. And I think we've been able to find lots of successes because of the dedication that all of us have. So again, I just want to say thank you. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around. And if there's any way that I can be of support in the future, I stand ready to do whatever I can. Thank you.
And Mr. Taylor, we had one more for you too. You and I came on the board together in 1992. It was a historic occurrence, and on behalf of that and your service, we too wanted to present you with a plaque to remember the board by.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you.
Mark? Yes, sir. Jeff and Calvin with resolution.
We did it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you again, board members. Okay, that takes us to recognition of the Commissioner of Revenue, Ms. Sharon Carter, and the Commonwealth Attorney, Mr. Tony Spencer. If Ms. Carter and Mr. Spencer would make their way, and while they're coming, I would just like to personally say, on behalf of this board, that we certainly appreciate the contributions that you all have made. Mr. Spencer, I'm glad I didn't have the opportunity to work with you directly, but I appreciate what you do. And Ms. Carter, same with you. I appreciate all of what you do, and so does the rest of the board. And I told you I would come help you cut grass. That's our little joke, okay? All right. I'll start with a resolution of appreciation for Sharon W. Carter. Whereas Sharon W. Carter will retire on December 31, 2015, after 16 years of distinguished service to the citizens of Caroline County as a Commissioner of Revenue. And whereas during her tenure as Commissioner, Mrs. Carter has displayed leadership and professionalism and performed her duties with integrity. And whereas under her leadership, the Commissioner's office has continuously evolved to meet new challenges and provide new and exceptional services to the citizens of Caroline County. And whereas the Board of Supervisors wishes to express its appreciation for Mrs. Carter and its gratitude for the invaluable contributions she has made. Now therefore be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby commends Sharon W. Carter for her 16 years of exceptional service as a Commissioner of Revenue of Caroline County and extends its very best wishes to her and her family for a happy retirement. And it's adopted this 8th day of December 2015. Mr. Charles M. Cully, Jr., Clerk of the Board, and Calvin B. Taylor, Senior Chairman. So Ms. Carter, if you will come up.
Well, there wasn't any time that I didn't have something to say. But I want to say thanks to everybody The county has been a challenge because it's growing. We've had to change a lot. I came along the same time Mr. Akers did, so the office has completely changed. No computers, everything done by hand. We wouldn't know how to go back to that now. But the people of Caroline have been a blessing to serve. We always say 98% of our taxpayers that come in know what they're supposed to do. They want to do the right thing. And we won't say who the other 2% are. But working with the county has been a rewarding experience. It's been rewarding because we've had a board that has supported our offices. We're very fortunate. That's not what goes on across the Commonwealth. We have a board that supports our offices. And with the new members coming aboard, I'm going to make it clear that we expect them to support the constitutional officers. These are independent people that work for the state and for the county that are important. And why we're important is because we're elected by the people. This board has been exceptional in supporting my staff. They have been trained to do it right. And I thank them. Now, the rest of you nuts, I love every one of you. And it's been great to work with you. And we've had our ups and downs too. But we work together. And that's why we're here, is to work together. Thank you.
And our next recipient is Mr. Anthony G. Tony Spencer. This is a resolution of appreciation for Anthony G. Tony Spencer. Whereas Anthony G. Tony Spencer will leave office as Commonwealth Attorney on December 31st, 2015, after 8 years of distinguished service to the citizens of Caroline County. And whereas Mr. Spencer served as the county's first full-time Commonwealth Attorney and was instrumental in building the Caroline Recovery Community Program that has been recognized by the Virginia Association of Counties and the National Association of Counties for excellence. And whereas during his tenure as Commonwealth Attorney, Mr. Spencer has displayed leadership, professionalism, and integrity and performed his duties admirably. And whereas the Board of Supervisors wishes to express its appreciation for Mr. Spencer and its gratitude for the invaluable contributions he has made. Now therefore be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby commends Anthony G. Tony Spencer for his 8 years of service as Commonwealth Attorney for Caroline County and extends its best wishes to him and his family for continued success in all future endeavors. And it's adopted this 8th day of December, 2015. Charles M. Culley, Jr., Clerk of the Board, Calvin B. Taylor, Chairman. If you would come up, Mr. Spencer.
Thank you. I will be brief. Tip-off for the UVA West Virginia game is in 25 minutes. The one thing that everybody that's come up here has said is, I'm going to echo the staff. I've become very fond of you, Mr. Culley, Ms. Hall, Mr. Parton, Ms. Hatcher, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Fincham. It's been great working with you. It's been great working with all the members of the board. One thing that I think everybody that works in this county has seen is how much there are opportunities to serve the public outside of what we do here. The fire and rescue squads, the Caroline Promise, Relay, the churches, on and on, the Humane Society, the Rotary, Ruritans, Lions. There's so many opportunities to serve this county, and I'm looking forward to continuing to serve the county in some other ways now. It's been a real honor. It's been a privilege. I've enjoyed all of it. Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to recognition of Commissioner of Revenue Master Deputies Angelina Cecil and Christy Nila. If you would just a moment.
And now back to work.
Oh, okay. Ms. Carter.
Right here. Okay.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Hello. Good evening, Chairman Taylor and board members. Constitutional officers of Virginia have consistently sought to improve their skills and overall performance through ongoing regional and state education seminars and meetings. In recent years, local government has become more sophisticated. Technology has enabled our offices to have access to much greater information in order to do a better job. The one thing that this does across the Commonwealth is it brings uniformity. As we take our college classes and our meetings, that's why Virginia is a good state, because we help educate our local level. It also ensures greater accountability with the citizens all over. Constitutional officers have tried over the past several years to become more uniform, and this is helping. The Commissioner of Revenue Association has teamed up with the University of Virginia, the Weldon Cooper Center, to form a career development program that is outstanding. In Caroline County, we're very fortunate to have a governing body that supports education for these offices. We're also extremely proud of our support that comes from the General Assembly. They believe in our career development in order to make these offices more uniform across the state. Thank you. It is a privilege tonight to have two, not one, but two, that demonstrate their skill, their commitment, their passion, and their professionalism every day for Caroline County. Both started in the Commissioner's office in 2006. They are among the most valuable employees in the county. They help bring our revenue to pay for our services that are needed in our county. In order to receive the masters, you have to first of all pledge to a code of ethics. That's extremely important. By the IAAO, that's the International Assessing Officers. The maintenance and the policies that they set The standards of accountability are high. They're very high. They also must complete college-level courses. They must participate and provide service to the Commonwealth, and that's beyond getting a paycheck. Angie, in red, that way we'll tell them apart there. Angie is a deputy in our real estate department. We also call her our special projects manager. She reads deeds and wills, maintains records on our special land assessment programs, works with our GIS, manages our new website, publishes our quarterly newsletter, and has other administrative duties. There's a lot to keep an office going. Christy Nilo, in the darker red, is a deputy in personal property. She's truly mastered proration. She took it on when you voted it in and has run with it and has done a wonderful job. Christy is a little unusual because any project you give her, she digs into it twice as hard as anyone else. She works with DMV and our computer vendors, which is very important. We have information from NADA, DMV. We must have assessments from all sources. She also assists in writing the tax methodology for the office. She writes procedures for her personnel. Christy publishes our annual personal property book. If you looked up a job well done in the dictionary, it says performed accurately and diligently, executed with skill and efficiency. Tonight, that's what you get with Angie Cecil, deputy in real estate, and Christy Nilo, our master deputy in personal property. I'm very proud to leave my office with 4 master deputies. That's because of you and because of the General Assembly. The more education that is given in government, the better off we all will be. This is extremely important. We are so diversified across the state to have programs that they can earn a master deputy and know how to proceed with state law and county ordinances. Now tonight, gentlemen, we only have 1 certificate because the other one has not arrived. This is Angie's, and now you have 4 master deputies. Thank you. What better gift can you give a new commissioner than an educated staff?
Thank you very much, Ms. Carter. And thank you to Angie and Christy for all of your hard work and dedication. We have to deviate just a little bit right here because I believe the Honorable Ryan McDougall and the Honorable Harlan F. Fowler have other engagements. And so they've kind of asked if they could come, and that is certainly no disrespect to this next position as the library director. We just ask your indulgence because they do have to go, and I will go right back to you as soon as they finish. So at this time, I would ask Mr. McDougall and Mr. Fowler, if you will come forth at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here before the Caroline Board of Supervisors, and we're just here to probably, I guess, give you kind of a little rundown on where we think the 2016 General Assembly is going and how it's going to impact localities such as Caroline County. And so, again, we welcome the opportunity, to be here, and also I just want to. I hope that we also are here to listen as well as speak. So we're hoping to maybe get some feedback from the Caroline Board as to maybe what some of y'all's priorities are going to be for the 2016 Virginia's General Assembly. So again, we look forward to the give and take.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As y'all know, our schedules become very challenging in large part because our districts are not geographically as compact as what we would like them to be on a regular basis. Buddy had just leaned over to me and said, "Do you think we're going to make the next one?" And I said, "I wish it was only one, buddy." And but thank you for inviting us. As we go through this time, somebody was saying, "Are you looking forward to the holiday season?" earlier today, and I said, "It's always great, but this is the most challenging time for those of us in the General Assembly, because as we're preparing legislation, and yesterday was the deadline to pre-file ideas of bills, so it was very hectic going forward to that, and everybody wants to express their opinion on what we should do and shouldn't do going forward in the legislative session. This year, I think that like every year, we'll have some challenges. There will be some issues that will be hotly contested. There will be many that will not be hotly contested, and we'll have some very rational and thoughtful debates. Some of them will pass, some of them will not. But we'll look at close to 3,000 different ideas and concepts over that 60 days between the beginning of January and the 1st of March. But the most important item in that group of 3,000, and it is one, is our state budget. And that is the one that we will spend the most time on. We will agonize, and we will try to work to put together the best package possible. And the vast majority of those resources are coming back to localities. Of our general fund, about 47% of those dollars come back in direct aid to localities. So the decisions we make have a larger impact on individual counties, on y'all's decisions, than any other decisions that we make through the legislative process. So as we go through that, it'll be a challenging year, as budgets always are. There are some positives, some optimism. Our revenues in many other years have been negative. Certainly we had some revenue challenges over the last couple of years where we had to make some difficult decisions totaling about $2.5 billion. This year does not look like we'll have any of those decisions, but we also have some increased pressures on the budget. The number of school-day children, the aid or the cost of Medicaid continues to increase, and that will cause us to have to work very hard to try to come up with good decisions. So we look forward to your input and thought as we go through that process. It begins, or it has already begun, but the actual document will be presented in about 10 days on December the 17th. So we'll be especially looking forward for your input, thoughts and suggestions as we also review that docket, preparing for the legislative session and as it goes through the committee process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure board members do have some concerns, I guess, or questions for you. So maybe I will start with Mr. Thomas first, and we'll just give each of the board members an opportunity to talk about this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And gentlemen, it's a pleasure to see you again. Pleasure to have you here. One, I'm sure is going to be an issue, but when you start working on the school budget formula or the composite index, if you would at least consider transportation as part of that formula. I think I said it to Mr. Oracle when he was here. If you give a locality the same size as Caroline the same amount of money, we tend to have less money go towards education because our county is so spread out, so rural, so we spend a lot more money than other people for transportation. And then I have one last one, which I'm sure you'll agree with because it cost us nothing. We are going to, later in our meeting, we're going to discuss the County Board of Equalization, which handles our reassessment. Apparently, there's a state code that says the number is between 3 and 5, and we actually have 6 board members. So I'm sure you would like everyone to have a representative, since that's the American way, and we're not the only locality with only 5 representatives. So if it's possible, you could make the Board of Equalization equal to the number of districts within a locality, that would ensure representation of everyone, and it wouldn't cost a thing. I would really appreciate it if you could work that out.
I think so. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Thomas, the composite index is a perennial challenge, and for the members in the audience, it was created long before I was in the legislature, and probably long before many of y'all were actually serving in these positions. The challenge when you go to change the composite index is there are winners and losers. And we saw back under the Kane administration, Governor Kane moved to amend the composite index, and there were some winners, and most of those were in Northern Virginia. And I was not supportive of that change. I would have some, even though I agree with you that rural areas have some challenges, in particular with the transportation for schools, I would also be concerned if we made a move to alter the composite index, that the larger jurisdictions from particularly the north and even Hampton Roads might try to take a larger piece of the pie and make it even more challenging for rural areas. So it is one that we continue to struggle with. So frequently we've been trying to do it in different ways instead of altering the composite index, because I'm not sure. I was not in charge of redistricting on the Senate side because the Republicans were not in control. So Northern Virginia has about 10.5 Senate seats, when by my math they should only have about 8. And so they have a larger voting block than I would like them to have if we were altering the composite index.
And maybe you could look at it as, instead of changing the formula, maybe an additional supplement.
That is...
Which would level the playing field, and that's really all we're trying to do.
That is a more doable approach.
Thank you. And you are, of course, going to be able to change the Board of Assessors with no problem.
Mr. Fowler is. He just told me he was.
Board of Equalization.
Right.
Yeah, I need to talk with somebody about that, but I think we can get that done. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, as both of you know, and I've been in touch with both of you, I think you guys understand the number one concern for a lot of the residents in my district deals with a particular private water company. And I think Senator Garrett has some proposed changes. I will get it to you, Senator McDougall. I know I've sent it to Delegate Fowler in regards to what those proposed changes are. I would like to see, if it's possible, if you guys agree, I would like to see sponsorship for that, because that would definitely help the consumer and kind of put these private water companies on par with the other utility companies. So I look forward to hearing from both of you on that proposed changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Black. I do have the information from you, and I think it's important that your constituents get treated fairly, and that the corporations that are being regulated, I think, probably should also be treated fairly as well. And so I did take the opportunity to look at Senator Garrett's legislation, and then I'll talk with you and others about it later, and as well as Senator McDougall. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Underwood?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, one of my concerns are unfunded mandates like SOL testing. I'd ask you to continue to be mindful of that the creativity of teachers is not about taking a test. It's about preparing our students for career and college readiness. So as you sit on the floor of the General Assembly and talk, please keep that in mind so that we can better support our teachers in our schools. Thank you.
Mr. Akers?
I do. Senator McDougall and Delegate Fowler, it's been a pleasure working with both of you guys over the years that I've served in this position. There are a couple of things that we talk about quite often, and so far we've been able to curb those issues. One has been the B poll tax. Every year or every other year, that issue comes up in the General Assembly, and my concern is that someday that issue is going to get more attention than what's going to be the benefit of the localities. Because I can assure you that a county such as Caroline County depends on the B-poll tax as a revenue source that really means a lot to them. And unless you're willing to come up with additional revenue, some other source of revenue that the county can tap into, then the county goes hurting. And so I would ask you to, if you're going to seriously look at eliminating the B-poll tax, and I understand nobody likes the B-poll tax. We don't like the B-poll tax. When I first was elected, we had the merchant's capital tax, and that was an unfair tax as well, because it only hit the people that had inventories in their facilities at the beginning of the year. So that was an unfair tax. So it's all unfair. But again, I would ask that you continue to keep local governments in mind as you are debating in the B-poll tax issue. The other issue is, and I realize that probably last year there were some improvements to the transportation funding for local governments. Caroline County is certainly beginning to grow, and it's beginning to grow in a positive way. Retail, commercial development, those type of things, and that's what's going to help county such as Caroline County to move ahead and to continue to be a very viable county. I am concerned, because as we heard at the last meeting, I believe Mr. Thomas was telling us that there was something like $300 million, Mr. Thomas, that had been asked for, when the pot is $10 million, or what's the pot of the SB2? HB2. What is the pot for that to be drawn?
It's less than 300 million.
Yeah, much less than 300 million. So Caroline County is certainly needing to tap into that source in order to make some road improvements to Ladysmith Road, which commercial development is starting to take place on. And I would ask that whatever it is that you can do, that you certainly reach out and try to have influence to make sure that Caroline County gets its share of that pie. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley.
I'd just like to thank the senator and delegates for coming this evening. I talk to them frequently, and I'll pass on questions tonight in the interest of time.
And thank you very much also from the board for being here. VACO is concerned about K-12 funding, which certainly takes on a lot of what has been said, but certainly that's an issue, and certainly we would hope that you would certainly keep that at the forefront of your discussions. And I guess one other thing, there was talk about the resource officers in each school, and I don't know exactly how that's going to be funded. Certainly I will go on record as saying I would certainly support resource officers in each school, but depending upon the localities, many of the larger localities with many schools had concerns as to how it would be funded, and to not take funding from other sources in order to do that. One of the suggestions was that there may be some point where there could be some type of initiative for those localities that met that quota, and then they would perhaps be able to get some of the help that they need, and maybe some of the smaller localities would not be taxed as much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. Just as listening to the list, there are definitely some common themes in each of your requests, and one of those is funding, and that is the big challenge. As we look through the HB2 process and the transportation process, one of the reasons I voted against the overarching transportation revenue increase a couple years ago was my fear, and I think it's been partially played out, is that local rural areas were not going to have as great access to some of those revenues as some other areas. And I think, unfortunately, that is playing out, and we're going to have to continue to fight as we go through that process. But as we are looking at some things, I do think overall there will be some discussion points about things that we can do to make your jobs easier. I think we're going to be looking at the cost to compete dollars that maybe have gone to some non-teacher positions in jurisdictions just north of y'all, and seeing if we can maybe repurpose those a little bit better, which might make it easier as you're going to hire different personnel because you're not having to pay those increased salaries. I do think that the SOLs as a concept is very good and does have some benefit and purpose in making sure our students have access to the same level of education uniformly across the state, but it is equally as important that our students be able to have those critical analytical thought processes as they go through school, and that when they graduate from our public school systems, they're able to take those skills and move them into the workforce, because that's really where we're training our students for knowledge and to be productive members of the workforce. And K-12 funding is, I would expect, it is still our largest decision point. It's our largest budget item. I would expect that you would see us put some additional funding into K-12. Certainly the discussions that we have had internally has been in that direction, and I think that you will see that going forward. But one of the final things that I'd like to leave you with, because we do look at so much legislation, we don't always get a great agenda that we've had the opportunity to review in advance as y'all do. It moves rapidly. Please do not assume that we've seen every bill and we know the impact, positive or negative, that it will have on the county, and call us. Just call us or shoot us an email saying, hey, this bill is really great for Caroline. This bill we have some concerns about, but don't assume that we've seen it, because as they move through, it gets changed very rapidly as well, and we might not have seen it. But we thank you for what y'all do, because I think I've expressed to Delegate Fowler on more than one occasion, I think being on the Board of Supervisors is the most difficult elected job in the entire Commonwealth. And y'all have some really important decisions, but tough decisions. And as Mr. Akers said, I think with our decisions, we end up making more than 50% of the people unhappy. At least it always seems the math works out that way. So I am very appreciative of your efforts and the time you spend doing this. And Mr. Akers and Mr. Taylor, thank you for your service. It takes a lot, and I know that y'all will continue to serve diligently as you move forward. And also for our Commissioner and Commonwealth Attorney, thank them for their service. But y'all really do yeoman's work in this role, and we thank you for it.
Thank you, sir. We thank you both for being here, and we appreciate your time.
Yeah, I just want to echo some of the things that Senator McDougall said, Chairman Taylor, with respect to Wayne's comments on the BPOL tax. I mean, obviously, I think the time has come, I think, in probably not this year, but in future years, where we're going to probably look at some tax reform issues. But obviously, we do not want to take away the little bit of a taxing authority that the counties have. So I don't see anything like that happening. With respect to Mr. Underwood's comments about K-12, again, it is the biggest part of the state budget, and we're going to obviously put some more resources there. You know, one of the things that the House and Senate has been trying to do, over and above just putting money at, though, we are looking at the SOLs, we are making reforms, we're trying to add, flexibility, for your school board in addressing the standards of accreditation, and as well as the SOLs, in order to, just to make it, to make the program better, allow to provide for an education where our kids are doing actual learning as opposed to just rote memorization. So that is some of the things we're trying to do. Again, I just appreciate the opportunity to come here. Please don't hesitate to pick up the phone to call us, because just like Senator McDougall said, the legislation comes at us in a absolutely a furious pace, and so please give us a call. I want to thank Mr. Akers and Mr. Taylor for their long service to Caroline County. I'm not sure if I will ever be in the legislature long enough to equal any one of you guys, but my hat is off to you. I know it's an extremely tough job, because like Mr. Akers says, 50% of the people are mad at you. And I know Ryan will appreciate this. I was commenting to my mentor, I know Mr. Akers knows, Frank Hargrove one time, and who represented the district I have for 28 years. But I told Frank that, if you're not making somebody mad, you're not doing your job. So anyway, I know you guys have given your all to Caroline County. It's been a privilege for me to work with you guys, and just look forward to working with you others. And also, I need to get with, I guess, Charles, maybe about some language for a possible bill on the Board of Equalization. So again, thank you for this opportunity, and look forward to working with you.
And again, thank you both for being here. We appreciate your time, and we certainly appreciate what you do. Thank you. Okay, that takes us back to the introduction of the new library director, Ms. Ackerman. We thank you for indulging us and switching around the agenda a little bit. Hope we didn't inconvenience you too much.
Unless you want to pay for our dinner tonight, since we've been waiting, haven't had a chance to have dinner yet.
We'll get you some. We got some in the bag.
Chairman and members of the Board of Supervisors, I am president of the Caroline Library Board, and I wanted to come this evening to introduce you to our new library director that started the middle of November. Her name is Amy Lilly. Amy?
Good evening. I'm very excited to have taken over the library. I'm from the Virginia area, and I've just returned to the state, and it has been exciting to me that every day a patron comes in and says, I'm new to Caroline County, I want to get my library card. So I'm seeing that influx of visitors, those people moving here that want to make Caroline County their home, and they're coming to the library. We're going to make sure that we keep the library as the cornerstone of the community. That's the place where families can go. It's a place where children can learn to read, where teenagers have a safe environment to do their homework, where the young man who's looking for his first job can get on the computer because he doesn't have it at home, but he can apply for that job, where the gentleman or lady that just got laid off from her job doesn't have internet, doesn't have a computer, can come and file for unemployment, can apply for that job. They can do it at the library. So I look forward to your continuing support, and also look forward to leading the library into the 21st century and keeping us there. So have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lilly, is it?
Yes, sir.
I would certainly like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Board of Supervisors to welcome you to Caroline County. And certainly we assure that you will have much success here, and hopefully you will find it a pleasant atmosphere. And I think the board is always willing to do what it can to enhance the program. So again, thank you for being here, and we appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to the VDOT report. Mr. Nelson. And while you're coming, Mr. Nelson, I would like to personally thank you for the support that you've given me personally as well as this board. We've called on you a number of times, and you've always done a good job for us, so at least we knew you did what you could. So we appreciate that.
Just trying to do my job. Good evening, everyone. I want to give you your December update. First, I'll go over some of the preliminary engineering projects. The Route 721 bridge replacement over Beverly Creek, that project is scheduled to be advertised in 2016. The Route 72 bridge replacement over the Mattaponi River, that project was actually advertised today, so it's gone out for advertisement. So we'll get bids back hopefully within the next 60 days. As far as some of the construction projects, you may know already the Route 606 bridge, we've opened it up ahead of schedule, so that's something to be proud about. The contractor is actually going to come back and finish some outstanding work in the spring. He's going to pave a little bit more on either side of the approaches to make sure it's a smooth transition, but the road is open right now. The Route 648 Sunshine Road Bridge replacement, we actually started on that in October. We were supposed to start in mid-September. So we're a little behind schedule, but the road was closed in October. They're hoping to have that reopened by the new year. You all may have noticed some of the resurfacing work that's going on Route 301 and Route 30. We're hoping that contractor gets that wrapped up before too long here. as temperatures are starting to decrease. Now I'll go over some of the updates from the last board meeting that I had, and since then from some of you board members directly. Mr. Black, you had requested us review Ladysmith Road / Partlow Road near Charlesburg. We made some safety improvements at that area to bring some awareness in the curve at Anderson Mill Road. That work should have been completed on last Friday. Mr. Underwood, you had requested us to look at the speed limit on Route 30 between 301 and King William County. We conducted a study, and it's not recommended to reduce the speed limit at that location. You also requested us to look at the speed limit on Jericho Road, and based on the information that we looked at, we feel that the speed limit is appropriate on that roadway. Mr. Taylor, we had a request to provide an estimate for Stonewall Lane to try to bring that in under the rural addition process. We provided an estimate of $30,000 to construct that roadway to meet the standards to bring it into the system. The county would be responsible for funding those improvements through either the secondary six-year plan, revenue sharing, or either through local funds. The street must have an available width of right-of-way of 40 feet, a minimum. It must have been available for public use for at least 20 years, and the right-of-way has to be clear of utilities. So that's an update on that. Those are my updates. Do any of you all have any questions or concerns for me?
Okay, maybe I'll start on this end this time. Mr. Seeley, do you have?
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I've been working with Mr. Nelson on Edgar Road. It has been underwater many, many times over the last 10 years, and I will say they've done a fabulous job of fixing it. I went and looked at it. The residents, the neighbors there are thrilled. I just want to say what a great job that was, and I'm hoping it fixes their problem completely. So I want to say thanks again.
Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Akers?
I have no issues with Mr. Nelson, but I would like to say that it has been a pleasure working with you, and I do truly appreciate meeting me at various locations and looking at issues that we had, and trying to correct them if you could. And if you couldn't, you said up front you could not do anything about it, and I appreciate that tremendously. It's been great, and I want to thank you for that.
Pleasure working with you too.
Thank you.
Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Nelson, I'm quite disappointed in both studies. As I said in my opening comment, we have citizens who are losing their lives on Jericho Road. Mm-hmm. Speed limit is definitely that road is not a 55-mile-an-hour road. I would dare say it even meets state regulation probably in terms of width, if I believe it, if I'm correct. We have an issue there, and the citizens in the Reedy Church District, particularly Jericho Road, deserve some resolution. I remember when Ms. Kendra Rock got killed there years ago, and it's still continuing. The study means nothing to me when I know it's a public safety issue. I don't think it can tell the story. I can't go to a family and say, the study says we can't do anything about this, so you have to continue to suffer. I don't think that's the right answer. I can appreciate what VDOT is doing. Same goes for Route 30. It's too quick, too fast for a residential area, for those trucks going through there 55 miles an hour. Further down the road past the church there, Mount Calvary, that may be a little where you can ease up, but we have an issue. And as I told the citizens that called me, if we have to go and resort to civil disobedience, we're going to get something done, because we can't afford to continue to have people lose their life on Jericho Road. It's unacceptable.
Well, let me apologize, because, quite frankly, you asked for a speed study.
Yes.
I don't think speed is the issue. Okay. There's other things we can look at, but I was kind of short-sighted on your request because you specifically asked me to look at the speed.
Okay.
If you want me to look at other safety things that can be done, because in a brief, because you kind of caught me off guard about the different fatalities. I'm thinking, did I miss a fatality that happened? But in looking, I don't think that speed was an issue in either of the recent fatalities. So maybe there's things that we can look at. I can do a safety study on the roadway, and I've done this with Spotsylvania County and Stafford County. We go out, we look at the roadway as a whole. We identify trees that are in the clear zone. We identify signs that can be upgraded and things of that nature. Now, the issue primarily with Jericho Road is you've got 30-foot of right-of-way. A whole lot of the trees that are out there are on private property. So we've worked with the counties that I work with, and the county will fund and go out and ask the citizens if we'll identify trees. If the citizens agree, the county will pay to have the trees removed so that if somebody runs off the road, they're not hitting a tree in the clear zone. So, I mean, I can do those things and look at those studies, but I'm just letting you know that we have to have a conversation on how we're going to move forward to fund these things.
Mr. Nelson, I appreciate that, and I'm willing to have that conversation. Certainly, I can call you, but if that is the issue, then a safety study needs to be done, and I appreciate you adding that. I thought that was part of the speed study, but you've corrected me, so I appreciate that. So I'm looking to working with you to get this resolved. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Black.
Yes, I wanted to thank you for the improvements on the Charlesburg Road. I mean, it's a whole lot better. My only concern is on the arrow, where the curve is coming. I'm already kind of in the curve when I see the arrow. Okay. I mean, and the rumble strips. When I see the rumble strips, I'm like, what am I? What's going on with the rumble strips? My only concern is if we can figure out a way to get those arrows so that people can see that the arrows are there. I see that you have the one arrow in the middle of the curve. But if we can get it on the warning a little bit further out, it would be nice.
Okay, I will look into that.
Okay, but thank you very much. That's a whole lot better. I've had people contacting me saying that thank you, so I do appreciate it.
No problem.
Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Nelson. It's always good to see you. And thank you, first of all. I think we've resolved the issues in Belmont. We're going to take care of that. But I've got a couple of other issues.
Okay.
It appears that Doggett Fork Road is I guess in line with what Mr. Underwood is saying, has become a safety hazard in more ways than one. The intersection at Sunshine Road, there are sightline issues. You can't necessarily see before you're out. And also the intersection of Doggett's Fork and Reedy Mill.
Okay.
So it's basically that same area. Both of those intersections have sightline problems. And I don't think there is a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit like it's supposed to be on that road. That was one of the things the residents asked me to make sure the speed limit sign was posted, and I'm sure it's 45 miles an hour.
Okay.
And the other one is Coolwater Drive and the pond that's overflowing on a regular basis.
I'm aware of a pond out there that I think we had some issues with beavers at that location potentially.
Okay. I really don't care what the problem is, but the water is in the road.
Okay.
And when the water gets in the road, I guess it becomes VDOT's problem?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. So there's water in the road.
Okay. I will look into that.
And it's on a good nice day, there's water in the road. So when it's raining hard,
there's more water in the road.
It's probably a little dangerous.
Okay.
So I don't know how you fix it, but the right-of-way should be yours on the other side of the road where the pond is, right?
I'd have to look.
Okay. But you normally have a 20, 30-foot right-of-way.
30-foot right-of-way is the minimum that we have prescriptive right-of-way.
Okay, so if the water's starting to leak on your right-of-way, it's the state's problem.
Well, we have to figure out what the issue is and contact the property owner if it's a private pond. There's some of the things that I have to do on my end.
Okay, I don't know, but I know just by telling you, you're going to take care of it. So
I will look into it.
I appreciate it. No, I know you're going to take care of it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Just before you go, Mr. Nelson, thank you again for, as I said, all that you do. And this is a request I guess I would make to the board. I've been working with Mr. Nelson with Stonewall Lane. Stonewall Lane is a road that's badly in need of, well, not asphalt, but I think we were talking about a chip and tar type of surface for that road. The school bus has an issue going down there. I don't even think the school bus goes down there, as far as I know, and I'm hearing this from residents. We've gotten it down to $30,000. If we don't do something now, I'm afraid that it will be years before we'll get an opportunity to address that. And if the board would indulge me, if we could get the funds, for that road, for the chip and tar to get it into the system, and then as improvements need to be made, we can have the benefit of state funds and so forth. But if we don't do anything now, it's just going to get worse and worse. And I certainly would like to see us address that. I will listen to comments.
I was just asking, is that the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I would do that. I would move that. Is it okay for me to make a motion?
Well, I think there needs to be a little discussion. We're getting ready to go into a budget process.
We can discuss.
Okay.
Okay.
You can make a motion.
Okay. I will move that we use funds from the unencumbered balance to bring Stonewall Lane up to state specifications, which includes a chip and tar surface. If I can get a second.
I'll second it.
All right. Questions or discussion?
Well, I think that is a budgetary issue that needs to be looked at in the whole process. Mr. Underwood is going to be looking at the same thing, and I think that needs to be a line in the budget. Mr. Culley can actually put that on the agenda for a budget issue. I don't know that in December, without some input with other folks with roads in the same sort of situation. Mr. Underwood just heard about Jericho Road and what might need to be done there. I know Mr. Thomas and I each have a road. I have one in the exact same situation that I have not.
We can do yours too if you like.
Well, I don't know that we can sit here and say that we need to spend $30,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 per road. I think it's something that needs to be examined and needs to be put into a budget process so that we understand what we're doing and how we're going about it. I think making a motion and doing something without any real examination is not the way to go about this.
Other concerns?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to kind of reiterate what Mr. Seeley said. I mean, we haven't seen anything on this. I have no idea what the cost is going to be.
$30,000.
Is that?
$30,000. That's what the cost is going to be.
From who's giving us that quote?
I am.
We've been working on it for some time. Other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can you just give us a little, certainly I second the motion, but can you give us a little history regarding...
I'll be glad to. Stonewall Lane is a part of a development that was plotted back in the 70s. And at that time, and you can help me, you probably weren't around in the 70s, but you know what I'm talking about. But at that time, developers did not have to fix the roads prior to a subdivision being formulated. So this was plotted back in the 70s. There are a number of very nice homes on there, and we've been trying to do something with the road, and we worked with the developer, but we haven't been very successful. The subdivision has been sold, and the person who is responsible is someone who doesn't even live here. And the people, the residents, have been just trying to get some assistance. But since it's not in the system, they haven't been successful. One of the things about this that makes it a little different is that there are no utility issues as far as I can understand. All the right-of-way has been gotten. And so if there is a fixable road, that's one of them. Because many of them you have to get the right-of-way, and people don't want to sign, and we don't have any of those issues. Many of them have utilities that need to be moved, and that's very expensive. We don't have those issues. So this is just one of the, I would say, fixable roads. and I would like to see us address it. All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, that's by all means.
Mr. Nelson, this is your recommendation for, I'm sorry, this is your recommendation for remedy for the situation, the chip and seal, the chip and run?
It's my recommendation for, well, the thing is, it is a rural addition. And in order for a rural addition to take a road that's not, the developer's not in control of it, to have it brought up to state standards, to have accepted by the department, it has to meet a standard.
Right.
This board, if they approve to go through the rural addition process, can designate this Stonewall Lane as a rural rustic, which is the same way we build our unpaved state-maintained roads. This road has been maintained very well by the citizens out there. They've got a good, strong base. There's no issues really with drainage. In my mind, in order to bring this road up to the standards, the minimum standards I need, it just needs to be hard surfaced. Because I don't want to take on the maintenance of a roadway that is unpaved.
Right. So, in terms of spending this money, you believe that will resolve?
That will get them a hard surface road.
Hard surface, provide some safety for our school buses.
Now, the school bus part, I'm not sure what their issue is unless they just don't go down state-maintained roads.
Well, it's not a state-maintained road.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions? All right, I'll call for the question. It's been moved and properly second that we would use funds from the unencumbered balance to...
Could I have one question?
Certainly.
Do we know, Mr. Nelson, how many rural additions or rural rustic roads you have in your pipeline for us? Or?
For you all?
Yes.
The only rural rustic that I'm aware of that we have come up is Sorrel Lane. There are no rural additions that I'm aware of in this county that we have before us, not in the secondary six-year plan that I'm aware of.
What was that road that was in Mattapanai and then went back to Madison?
Yeah, that has been chip and tar. That's been paved. It was
Right next to
off Route 1.
Yeah, right next to the horse farm.
Yeah.
Ryland Road, I think.
Ryland Road. That's
Okay.
it. Ryland Road.
So we've done all the other ones we had.
It
That was
must have been
before your
before
time.
me, yeah.
That was before your
Ryland
time.
Road was done shortly after we went back into the in the pipeline. Yeah.
I've had no luck in the 3 or 4 roads that were ever in the Mattapanai district to fix. Once I got them in line, redistricting put them in somebody else's district. So Mr. Akers got credit for 10 years of my work, and I think somebody else, maybe Mr. Seeley, got credit for another one. But those are that's the only one you have in the county right now.
Yeah, and just to separate the two, what we're talking about, there's a rural addition process and there's a rural rustic.
Right.
The rural rustics are roads that are already state-maintained that are just unpaved.
Right.
The rural addition is a road that's not state-maintained.
Right.
And in order to get it into the system, you have to do some upgrades so
Right.
that we will maintain it. So rural rustics we do all the time. We had, I think, 3 or 4 since I've been in Fredericksburg.
Here.
But rural additions, to this date, I'm just getting ready to do one in Spotsylvania. It takes a long time because
Yeah,
the right-of-way is the biggest issue. And if the right-of-way is already dedicated,
Yeah.
you've cleared a huge hurdle.
Trust me, it takes at least 10 years, I know.
It does. Thank you.
How many houses are on that road?
I can't remember.
20,
I can't remember.
probably 20.
It's a nice road. I mean,
Yeah,
the road.
it is. And they're very nice homes. Okay. Call for the question. All in favor, let it be known by saying, the motion is to provide funding to get Stonewall Lane into the state system. Up to $30,000. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, how do you vote?
I voted aye.
Mr. Black?
Reluctantly.
Nay.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye.
Mr. Akers?
Aye.
Mr. Seeley?
Nay.
And I vote aye. Thank you very much. We'll let those folks know that we're going to fix that road.
I'll work with Mike and whoever to make sure we have the right documentation needed to move forward.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, that takes us to
Rest stops.
report on planned improvements to Interstate 95 rest stops.
So yes, we've got Martin Krebs here, who is from our central office maintenance division, who kind of handles all the rest areas. So we've got some exciting news that we're looking at upgrading the rest areas on 95 in Caroline County, and he kind of wants to go over some of the specifics.
Thank you.
He's got the presentation.
All right, members of the board, thank you. I admit it's been a long time since I've spoken in front of a board, so you'll have to bear with me.
That's okay.
So what I'm here to tell you about is I have some good news relative to the two rest areas that are located in Caroline County. After some time, we've finally been able to secure some funding to reconstruct those. And, just to be a good neighbor, we wanted to let you know what was going on in your backyard. We've been working with Charles and Joey on the planning of the utilities, and so we just want to go through some of the basics on this project and let you guys know what the schedule is and scope. So just basic overview of the program. The Safety Rest Area program is operated out of VDOT's Maintenance Division in the central office. We oversee the operations at all 43 rest areas statewide, and we receive approximately 33 million visitors every year. The two sites in Caroline County are in the top 5 relative to visitation. Caroline Northbound, which was constructed in 1965, receives approximately 1.6 million visitors per year. Caroline Southbound, constructed in 1968, receives 1.5 million visitors per year, and we expect those numbers to increase as traffic volume on the interstate increases as well. Of course, you know the project locations. The current facility is again constructed in the mid-60s, again ranked 3rd and 5th relative to visitation. When the facilities were originally designed and constructed, they were built for a 20-year lifespan, so that meant that they exceeded their capacity sometime in the 1980s. We looked at the facilities, looked at the needs, looked at planning guidelines, and we've come up with a concept that will bring us through 2036. So it's going to be a big improvement. Again, these are some of the existing photos now. A little out of sequence, but real quick on schedule. We're in the design phase for the projects now. We anticipate giving a construction contractor a notice to proceed in March of 2016, which would give us an April 2016 groundbreaking. We anticipate the construction process to take a year, and so that's substantial completion in April of 2017, and final closeout of the project, substantial completion in April 2017, final closeout in May of 2017. So we anticipate the site will be open to the public in April of 2017. This is the existing rest area building, relatively small, a little less than 3,000 square feet. You'll note the massive line of portable toilets in the background. That is to meet the capacity of the site. Again, they're among our most visited, yet some of the smallest and oldest sites. This is what is the prototype structure. This is actually a picture of the rest area in New Kent on I-64 westbound. That building's approximately 9,000 square feet. And it's one of the most visited sites. So we're using that as the prototype structure, and I've got some additional layouts of that. Again, this is an adaptation. The structures in Caroline will look like the picture, the rendering on the top. Some slight changes to the cornice work to make the roof line look a little more proportional to the building, but essentially the same structure. This is a layout of the existing or the proposed structure. Again, we're really going in and doing a massive upgrade. This is actually the layout that will be on Caroline southbound. The good news is in the next frame. So we've been given permission. You'll have to ignore the Greensville at the bottom. We've been given permission to build a new safety rest area and welcome center at Caroline northbound. So you guys will. Your county will be hosting our new state welcome center. And that is I don't have any pointer. But if you look in the upper right-hand corner, that will be the Welcome Center facility. These renderings are all draft, but that's approximately the layout as it will be constructed. That is all I had for the presentation. I do have, if you're interested in seeing a layout of the site, I can pull that up if I can figure out how to operate the laptop. One important note relative to the project is that the siting of the building, and I will pull up the site plan. Apologize, the CAD drawings don't come through too clearly. My ability to drag it either, apparently. We'll zoom out a little bit. It's coming through a little desert, but this is the existing structure on, or the structure that we will construct. It's very difficult to see, but one of the questions we have for the county is there is a water tower, an abandoned water tower located on the site, approximately in this area. And we'd like to engage Charlie and Joey in a discussion about demolishing that water tower as part of this project. You can see it in one of the existing frames. It's right behind the building. And it will be, as the building is sited, so you see the entrance when you're coming in. It's going to be a challenge to try and work around the water tower. And so I know that you guys have your county name on it, but again, we're increasing the size of the interior of the building pretty significantly. We're thinking that we may be able to offset some of the impressions that you might lose with the tower by bringing some information about Caroline County into the building so that travelers can see that. And again, we think that we'll get about 1.5 million impressions on that as people roll through the site. So that's kind of what's happening in your backyard.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
You, on a couple of slides before, you said we were going to have the rest stop and visitor center.
Correct.
On Caroline northbound, you said.
Correct.
There's no exit after the visitor center after that stop in Caroline.
It's a state.
Yeah, but I mean, I get on 630.
Yeah, there is an interchange north.
639 is south. Isn't that south of the?
Yeah, right across the road from me, across 95. North is on this, the northbound lane.
So both of the rest stops are between 104 and 110.
Correct.
They're between Coolwater and.
All right, I'm usually trying to get off at 17 to come around the other way.
Yes, sir.
But I was wondering why it would be there, and then we wouldn't have an exit past it. Well, all right, that's fine. Now, about the nice deal you're going to make us for the water tower, you're saying you're going to take it down and put it back up, but just not with our name on it?
No, as I understand it, the water tower is abandoned. It's no longer operational, so it needs to be demolished.
So you're just going to take it down and no problem for us. No problem to me means no money from us, right, Sean?
That's a conversation we wanted to engage Charlie and Joe.
We're having it now.
We're having it now. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Does board members have other questions regarding the rest stop? Thank you very much for your presentation, sir. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
All American City is coming down, too.
Okay, that takes us to update on general reassessment. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you. General reassessment is winding down. I anticipate the field work being done in January and hearings sometime early February. The county sales ratio is holding about 97% based on a 2014-15 sales, and which we're looking roughly a 2% increase, and that translates into about a $56 million increase in taxable real estate for the county. Going pretty smooth. Other than that, no problems with citizenry or anything. Is there any questions I can answer?
You just say $56 million?
Yes, sir. That's based on that 2%.
Okay. Board,
But he's saying a 2% increase is $56 million in additional revenue,
Exactly.
taxable revenue.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
But we would have to reduce the tax rate to equalize it. So there's not a bonus $56 million coming in.
I'm saying based on the 2%, that's just what the increase in the county's overall real estate tax. I understand.
You've done your part.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure we understand what you're saying altogether.
Yes, sir, I understand.
Because we're not going to have $56 million next week.
Right, exactly. I understand.
Mr. Taylor, I do have a question.
okay, Mr. Seeley has a question.
So just so I'm straight on this, you're saying that overall the county's real estate value has gone up 2%?
That's what it's looking. Now that may change, but I mean, this late in the game, that's in the ballpark.
Because I will tell you that the biggest complaints that I've had has been the reduction in the value of the sale prices of property in my entire district. I mean, I had a house for sale in a subdivision in Bowling Green that sold for $70,000 less than the assessed value. So I'm having a tough time figuring how you've seen a 2% increase when I'm listening to sales around the county being substantially below assessed value. So I'm hoping you guys have a really good explanation of how that happens, and then you tell us there's a 2% increase.
Right, I understand. And if you look, and if the Board of Assessors will show you what we've reviewed sale-wise, their increase is there. Now, obviously, there's always some that you will find that are low, and there's certain areas, pockets that may be, have to be dealt with individually. But overall, we're looking at about a 2% increase.
So you have comparables that you're going to show us that houses sold, because you got that well above assessed value to get
yes,
2% overall.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's got to be more than 3 or 4.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but I think in all fairness, we need to give them an opportunity to complete the work, because the papers will come in, and at that time, I'm sure that there will be opportunities to discuss those
Is there any
issues.
way we can get, as a board, an early look at some of the properties and the sale prices and assessed values that you guys are looking at?
Certainly.
Because I'd like to do my homework on those before we get them 3 days before we meet with you guys, because I need to go look, and if I have to go to the clerk's office and actually look some up, I'll do that.
Yes, certainly.
I understand that, but I know what's been sold and what people have purchased and what they've sold, and I can tell you the complaints that I have heard have been loud. Because to hear that there's a 2% increase really has me by surprise.
Understand.
Okay.
This is your third time doing the reassessment.
No, sir.
Your firm.
It's more than that. Since '93, so I would say.
Yeah, I think I remember you right away.
So I'm trying to think how many cycles that's been. Roughly, maybe 5, 6, give or take.
That would sound right.
reassessments.
That would sound right. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I do have a question. In reference to what Mr. Seeley is talking about, what areas do you find, I know the entire county is not 2%. There've got to be higher pockets that are higher and areas that are higher and some that are lower.
Right.
Over on the western side of the county, what are you averaging over in that area? Do you have any thought?
Well, I'd be off the top of my head. I would say probably you're looking at more than 2%.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, and y'all probably know that. But to give you an exact figure,
No, but I mean ballpark figure.
4 or 5%. It surprised me somewhat. It has surprised me. And the thing is, if you look at the 2014 sales, they're fairly flat relative to the oldest current assessment. But if you look at 15s, and just about all the ones that I've seen, that's where the increase, and that's what we use as the most recent sales. So. And that's what's driving it, at 2%, I think.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That takes us to appointments. Board of Equalization, I believe, I know the Royal District had to do an appointment, and who else was it?
I have, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Lynn Lanahan to the Board of Equalization from the Bowling Green District.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and probably second that we would appoint or submit the name of Lynn, is it?
Lanahan.
Lanahan, to the judge to represent the Bowling Green District on the Board of Equalization. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. I'm going to allow the board to, along with Mr. Long, to take care of the Port Royal District as far as equalization is concerned. Since it may change, but right now we only have 5 spaces, so that would kind of take care of that, and the board could do that. Yes.
I'd like to nominate.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking you had. Okay, Mr. Black.
I'd like to nominate Rosemary Ames.
Okay, Mr. Black, his motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that Mr. Black's district, the Western District, would submit the name of, and would you say it again, please?
Rosemary Ames.
Mrs. Rosemary Ames.
Yes, Ames.
To the judge to represent the Western District on the Board of Equalization. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. That takes us to the consent agenda. There are only 3 items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve them?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item B.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve items A and C?
So
So
moved.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second that we approve consent agenda items A and C. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and the motion carries. All right, item B, Mr. Thomas.
Item B is the request for insurance for rental of the community center.
Okay.
And I think we, in our understanding of putting insurance requirements on the visitor center, which has the sculpture and things worth a lot of money, I'm not sure it's equitable to do it for the community center because we have several groups that use the community center for things like funerals, not parties or cabarets, which are listed in the listing, but I would not want to charge someone $100 for a funeral. And I think if we go back to staff and let staff look at this a little more, because there are different classifications. I noticed the classification for cabaret, classification for party. Those may be things where we need insurance, but I certainly wouldn't want to ask a grieving family to come up with another $100 for insurance because I don't recall anybody swinging from the chandeliers at a funeral. So if the board doesn't mind, maybe you can have staff look at it a little more. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's my question. I'm sorry. My question is, but we don't do rental of the building for the funeral, do we? I thought I've never known us to rent the facility for a funeral.
I've been to a whole lot of funerals in here.
I mean, we've had them here, but I don't think there was a.
They pay.
Well, if we go with this, Mr. Underwood, Mr. Thomas is correct, we would charge everybody an insurance fee. They would have to get an underwriter. They'd have to have insurance.
Then I agree with Mr. Thomas. I think we need to go back and look at this.
Yeah.
This is not the right thing to do.
Okay, what we can do is we can table B until the board has time to talk with staff.
And just direct staff to look at the things that would actually require insurance, like a cabaret or like a party, which were listed in their definition.
Right. I guess my thoughts were, and I'm not arguing with what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying, but I thought that the insurance was in the event that someone got hurt. Like if even at a funeral somebody fell or slipped.
We have that kind of insurance normally.
Okay, but if that's covered, then this is additional.
I mean,
then maybe the additional is not needed.
It was additional liability and for damage to the property, but like I said, I've been to quite a few here, and I've yet to see anybody swing from the lights or anything like that. So
okay, we will. I'm sorry.
Is that, I guess my question, is that common for in the counties that rent out space, and I don't know if you know the answer to that, to have different, my only concern is that we're not going to be equal across that we have one for one place and one for another. I'm just wondering the legality of that.
But they're different places. They're each unique. There's no whale in here.
Yeah. Ben is saying that we could have.
But $1 million policy is not that much.
Okay, but then we will table agenda item B until the board has had an opportunity to talk with staff and come back with a recommendation. Okay, that takes us to we need a break. We're behind schedule, and I apologize. We'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back with public comments and the public hearing. Let us reconvene the December 8th Caroline County Board of Supervisors meeting. At this point on the agenda, we are at the public comment section of our agenda. The public comment section is that time that citizens are allowed to approach the board on any issue that's not a public hearing or any issue that's not listed on the agenda for discussion. But any other issue that citizen would like to address the board on, you may do so at this time. We ask that if you wish to approach the board, that you would state your name and your voting district if it's applicable, and we would allow you 3 minutes. So at this time, is there anyone who would like to approach the board? Good evening, Mr. Parker. Reverend Parker, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Board. How are you?
I'm fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to speak. A couple things that I want to make mention, and I am aware of the time, so I'll only take up a few of those 3 minutes. One of the things that I want you all to consider or to do when you have the opportunity to be in front of the school board, I know it's not your jurisdiction, but I'm asking for your input, that you assist in some way, shape, or form of helping to retain some of the experienced teachers that come here brand new, get there 3 or 4 years, and then move on to somewhere else. I currently have 3 children that are in the Caroline County school system, and all of them are in different grade levels, 1 elementary, 1 middle, and 1 senior in high school. And over that time frame, I've seen several individuals come, get introduced, meet them, and within 2 years, they're gone. And I know it's not your particular problem or issue. When I say problem or issue, I mean it's not something that you directly control. And I'm making the same request to them because we've got to do something. I'm not going nowhere, and I don't want my kids to leave either, but that's one of their biggest concerns, is that there's no normalcy. When I was there, I got taught by the same teacher that taught my mother and father. And I know that don't exist anymore, but I'm just looking for some consistency so that the teachers have opportunity to get to know the students, more importantly, get to know our county so that they bring the level of excellence that I think our students deserve. That's the first thing I wanted to make mention of. The second thing has been mentioned, and I didn't know all of the ins and outs that would be mentioned on tonight, but the request to do something about Jericho Road is definitely near and dear to me as well. I have family that live there, and I am in the Reedy Church District, so it is a part of my district. But the 55 miles per hour, I'd like for them to reconsider that. But as well, that particular road does not have a shoulder, and the ditch line almost meets the road. Yes, the trees are an issue, but my fear is if you move the trees and create the ditch where the ditch line is right now, we won't have vehicles hitting trees. We'll have vehicles being overturned. So something needs to be done with that particular area, and I'd appreciate any input or power that you all possess to make those things happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Good evening. My name is George Spinner. I live in the Mattaponi district. And the 2 issues I wanted to speak on, one was the Jericho Road issue. I've driven up and down that road many times. Sometimes it's to go to Mr. Black's meetings. And I got to tell you, in the daytime driving up that road scares the hell out of me because it's just that twisty and turny and the turning, and there's really no place for you to go off if somebody were to swerve from the opposite direction or something. At night, I'm terrified coming down that road for the same issues, and the fact that sometimes it can look like a car coming in the opposite direction is coming straight for you because of the way the road twists and turns at points. I agree with Mr. Underwood that something does need to be done with that road. I don't care what the state says, but something needs to be done with that road. The other issue is the Doggett Fork Road issue. That is my neighborhood, my area, and I can tell you that besides the intersection, that road takes a deep, past the Sunshine Road and Doggett's Fork Road intersection, the road takes a deep dip and twist at the same time before it comes back up. And there are 18-wheeler trucks that go to the Jones Lumber Company to service them. And those tractor trailers, those 18-wheelers, cannot stay in their lane. They are always, the rear wheels are always crossing over into the opposite lane. The fact that somebody hasn't been seriously injured or killed in that area has really amazed me in the 17 years that I've lived there. There have been times when I've had to pull way over off to the side because of a 18-wheeler loaded with logs, or an 18-wheeler truck that has wood chips on it is coming down through that dip. And I think something needs to be done about that road, that section of the road. And actually, I think that if something is done, Jones Lumber Company needs to be paying for it, since they're the ones who benefit from having those 18-wheelers coming up and down that particular section of the road. Also, I just wanted to say to Mr. Akers and Mr. Taylor, I've enjoyed seeing you on the board for the last 17 years that I've lived in this county, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Peggy Smith. I'm a lifelong resident of Caroline County, live on Cedar Fork Road, and have lived there my whole life. I use Jericho Road regularly to go to shopping and to work, and it is my feeling that Jericho Road does need something done. In particular, the posted speed limit is either 45 or 55 along that road, but rarely is that observed. It's been my observation that most people exceed the speed limit on that road regularly, and that road is poorly banked in many places. And I think it's definitely, we need to study that in terms of safety and speed. I think the speed needs to be revisited on that.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Finally, is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Seeing no one with the intention to speak, I will close the public comment section of our meeting. And certainly the board has talked about, Mr. Underwood has talked about Jericho Road, and so certainly we appreciate your concern with safety, and I assure you that Mr. Underwood, along with Mr. Nelson and VDOT, are going to look at safety issues and concerns and try to address that, as well as Doggett's Fork Road. I believe Mr. Thomas mentioned that earlier tonight as well. So, they are aware of it, and I'm sure that the entire board is going to be sensitive to the issues that are taking place on those roads, and they will be doing whatever is necessary to try to correct that. I think Mr. Parker talked about the experienced teachers, and as you said, we don't directly control that, but I think what the board can do in working in tandem, with the school board and the superintendent, and looking at experienced teachers and cost and pay and benefits as they compare to other areas, and when budget time comes, I'm sure that the board will take those things into consideration in funding of the school board's budget. Now, they can't tell the school board what to do with the money, but hopefully we will have a relationship that will allow us to interact with them and provide as much funding as we can to try to address teachers and salaries and other things that go into making an effective school system. We are concerned, and I would suggest that at budget time, come back, because there will be a public hearing on the school board's budget, and as citizens, I would suggest that you avail yourself of the opportunity to come out during the public hearings when they're talking about the schools and the budget process and what needs to be done to support the schools. And I think that was basically it. Again, I'd like to thank each of those persons who addressed the board, and we hear you, and we'll do what we can do to address your concerns. That takes us to public hearings. Agenda item number 4 is a special exception, 02-2015, Emmett Sneed Company, the third owner, Clark's Cut 2, LLC. It's a request and amendment to the special exception permit in accordance with Article 17, Section 13, Standards for Special Use Permits, and Article 4, Rural Preservation, Section 5.3 of the Caroline County Zoning Ordinance on Tax Map number 4-1-3 and 4-1-4, consisting of 60.82 plus or minus acres. The property is located on the north side of Route 17 Tidewater Trail, approximately 1/2 a mile east of Route 610 Petmire Hill Road, and it is in the Port Royal voting district. The proposed amendment is to modify previously approved special exception permit, special exception 03-2008, to amend conditions, including but not limited to those related to condition number 1, to reference revised general development plan conditions number 10, to change requirement for a renewal to a review every 5 years from site plan approval, and condition 11, remove the requirement for road improvements if access is obtained through the adjacent mining operation interest. Okay, Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your first public hearing tonight before you is, as Mr. Taylor stated, it's a request to amend conditions related to a previously approved special exception permit. I believe you have a fairly detailed staff report which I attempt to outline, 1, what the original conditions were, 2, the discussion by the Planning Commission related to the conditions that were requested to be modified, and 3, the revised request and staff's comments were appropriate where related to those proposed modifications. The application has been subject to some fairly significant discussion and from the time it was originally filed. The initial stated purpose of the request was to originally amend conditions 9, 10, and 11 of the original special exception permit. Condition 9 related to ownership, and the request was to amend the condition that currently limits the permit to Clark's Cut 2 LLC, and specifically to Mr. Sneed as an entity or as a member of that LLC. Condition number 10, the applicant requested that the 1-year renewal that was in the original permit would be amended to a 5-year review. And then the third condition, condition number 11, related to the road improvements. The original special exception permit, there were identified road improvements which spoke to a decel or a right turn lane. The Board of Supervisors added a requirement for a left turn lane as you go eastbound on Route 17, which is consistent with other actions by the board in trying to protect the integrity of the arterials in Caroline County. Most recently, That was a condition of the board approval related to the Cheney application. Collectively, the requested changes generated a number of concerns that if all of those were approved, it would have some unintended consequences, namely relieving the applicant of the obligation to construct the left turn lane. It would modify the road improvements requirement, and it also raised a concern that the applicant could then sell the permitted operation to anybody. In the original application, there was a great effort made to distinguish this application from other commercial operations in terms of protecting Mr. Sneed's farming operation and small business that he had at that location. The Planning Commission ultimately recommended denial of the special exception permit or the amendment to the original special exception permit. The applicant did request that this permit consideration be deferred initially until January of next year, but in early November came back and stated he was ready to go forward and asked the board to reconsider and bring his application back before the board, which the board did agree to do, which is why we're having the public hearing tonight. You will note that after the Planning Commission recommendation, the applicant proposed several additional modifications. He did request a Condition 9 be not amended or taken out of consideration. Proposed modification to Condition number 10 related to the renewal and is asking that that condition be amended consistent with the same condition for the Cheney operation. The applicant also requested Condition number 11 related to transportation be amended, and in each case you have staff comments and or recommendations related to how those changes should be or staff's thoughts on how that language should be amended as well. With that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, basically I don't have a question, it's just that so we are listening now and considering Condition 10 and Condition 11.
Yes, sir.
And not Condition 9.
Not 9. You also note that early in the process there was a Condition number 1 to amend the GDP. Staff has since reviewed that further, and based upon the suggested language in Conditions 10 and 11, and the fact that there would still be some conflicts with the transportation improvements shown in that GDP, that not be considered, and we have not brought that forward. Okay. That was initially a staff suggestion.
Okay. All right, does other board members have questions of Mr. Fincham prior to the opening of the public hearing?
I think you said it, Mr. Chairman, but my question was Condition 9 is not a part of what we're looking at.
That is correct.
So it will remain that the permit is exclusively to Clark's Cut LLC and cannot be transferred.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Other questions?
I have a question.
Well, I think Mr. Black first, and then I'll get to you. Okay. Mr. Black.
I just have, can you explain to me what the difference is on the difference between what we call a renewal and a review?
Yes, sir.
How that pertains to the county?
Under the special exception provisions of the ordinance, there are two options if the board wants to look at a special permit that it has granted previously. One, and the more typical option, is a review, where every so often, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, the special exception permit comes back to the board, And the board has the opportunity to look at that special exception permit to ensure that the applicant has complied with the conditions that the board previously established. I think the most recent example would be Mr. B's Bluegrass Festival permit, which came back to the board several months ago. So that is whenever the board wants to review a permit, that's the one that usually the board puts a condition into the permit. A renewal is in effect going back through the special exception permit process all over again. So the board can condition a renewal, and under that scenario, the applicant would go back through the entire special exception permit process, in effect, a second time.
Is there a financial impact with the renewal?
The renewal would be the same permit application fee as is currently specified in the ordinance. So whatever the original application was, it would be the same fee. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Fincham, so I guess my question here then is in the language, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're trying to have a commonality in terms of language here based on what we did with the Cheney property?
That is the applicant's request. Yes, sir.
Do you see any issue with that, knowing that this was back, I think, 2008, and then the Cheney thing happened last year or whatever? What are your concerns regarding the changing of the language to reflect commonality?
I'm not sure the Cheney language is necessarily the language that I would have suggested if the board wanted to do that, but that was the, I guess, most recent action of the board, and the applicant chose that request or that modification as part of his request to you.
And what would you have recommended?
I think we need to go back to the original special exception permit, which is what, almost 8 years old now, and discuss why the renewal was conditioned in the first place. Back at the time, again, I think the board, in granting the approval, and it was a split vote, if I recall correctly, it was 3-2, was trying to identify the difference between this application and other applications that had either been permitted or were anticipated in the corridor, and wanted to ensure that in fact, the operation was as proposed.
Is there some way that we can kind of have our cake and eat it too, and have the language of renewal where we don't have an effect financially upon the applicant, but certainly have the process of review as part of that within that 5-year period? Is there something that we can do or discuss to where we don't have that impact on them? Yet we in turn have the ability to have discussion if there are issues that come up in that 5-year period. You don't have to, I mean, it's something we can discuss, but I'd like for you to kind of think about that in your role.
I think certainly there are options if the board wants to look at additional modifications to that condition. Yes, there are options. You could look at a 3-year renewal or something like that.
But the renewal still would cost the applicant additional funds if he went to a renewal process versus, again, the review process. Correct. So I'm trying to get to the point that it doesn't cost additional funds, provided that they're operating the way they should, but it gives us the ability to review, and should that person work outside the special exception, then we can say and put some limitations in place.
Again, if you're looking at the review process, you are looking for compliance with the conditions. I guess the Cheney condition, I would just, if you wanted to go with a review versus a renewal, then I would just establish a simple or a defined standard. 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, every so often it comes back to the board. I think the Cheney language perhaps was overly complicated.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Akers, you don't have any? Mr. Seeley?
I guess I'm a little confused because there are 3 sections in the board packet.
Yes, sir.
There's what the Planning Commission actually looked at for the changes to the special exception.
Yes, sir.
So there were those conditions that have been reviewed and forwarded to us from the Planning Commission.
Yes, sir.
Then there's another set of conditions that looks like it's been changed twice from the applicant since the Planning Commission.
Yes, sir. That's the changes since the Planning Commission action.
But my point is that
Yes, sir.
there are 3 sets of changes here, and the Planning Commission's changes is what we were predicated on when this came to public hearing. Because that's what they reviewed, that's what they've been able to do research on, that's what they've been able to advise us on. Not the conditions that we're currently looking at, because they've changed, it looks like to me, substantially.
Changes have been made, but the changes are, at this point in time, based upon the revision, not the original conditions considered by the commission, because, as we've discussed, the applicant no longer is requesting the amendment to condition number 9. And that was not advertised for tonight's meeting.
I understand,
Yes.
but what I'm saying is we have 3 different sets of conditions. The Planning Commission has reviewed 1 set.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And the Planning Commission should have then taken a look at least the 3rd set and given us recommendations based on their review, since they're our really review board that does that for us.
I think the board would have to refer the application back to the Planning Commission for that consideration. That certainly is an option. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Fincher, there are many times when an applicant makes a request and the Planning Commission denies that request. And the applicant then goes back and looks at what the denial is and tries to satisfy, if you will, that denial. And when they come before the board, they will then say, because oftentimes we will ask, well, why did the Planning Commission recommend denial? And the applicant will say, for A, B, C, and so in coming to the board, we've deleted that, and that's all I see that's happened in this particular instance. And we're going to open a public hearing so that the applicant can speak to that. But my reading of this just shows where the applicant looked at the condition, looked at the concerns that the Planning Commission had, and tried to go back and address some of those concerns that caused them to deny it in the first place. And so, at any rate, I don't see the issue with the 3 sets. It's just what the applicant did to try and get the approval, to try to address what he saw as being the issues, and to try to get an approval. But anyway, that's my question, and that's my concern.
Mr. Chairman, can I go back to Mr. Seeley's point for just a second? Mr. Seeley, and I think you're aware of this, but I just want to point out for the record, the original conditions were also included in your packet. So there's actually 4 sets of conditions. The staff report speaks to 3 sets.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Any other questions for Mr. Fincham before we open the public hearing?
I just want to make sure that, Mr. Fincham, if you would, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Many times, it's gone through the planning commission process, but when it comes to this board, the board may say there's a condition we want to add on special exceptions or an addition we want to take out. Now, based on what Ms. Seeley is saying, that I suppose we should have sent that back to the planning commission to get their approval on any of the amendments we've made as far as the provisions or conditions or to a special exception. Is that what we're supposed to do?
We haven't been doing it.
That's your summation of it. I'm not saying anything. Just stating the obvious.
Okay. Or maybe that's not what he's saying. He's not saying anything, so maybe that's not what he's saying. I don't know. But anyway.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the members of the board also received an email this afternoon from Mr. Lemming with a letter that addressed to the board members that identified several concerns that he still had with the application on behalf of his clients. So I just wanted to add that in.
Yes. And while we're adding, the board also received a letter from Dr. Meany, basically in support of one of the adjoining landowners in support of this special exception. The board members did get copies of that.
Mr. Cully, I was unable to open the attachment.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I will open the public hearing for special exception 02. I will open the special exception for 02 2015 Emmett Sneed owner Clark's Cut 2. I would offer a representative, Mr. Sneed, or a representative of his to come and speak to this, and then I will allow any other persons after that who would like to speak to this public hearing.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Seven years ago, I stood before you and received a permit to mine sand and gravel on my property on Tidewater Trail. For about 5 of those 7 years, I was unable to use the permit due to litigation between some of my neighbors and against the county as well. During that time, no bank would lend me money to start the mining operation because of the lawsuits. Now that the economy is not doing so well, along with legal expenses that I've had to incur, it makes me want to be cautious about how much more money I spend to start an operation that I may only be able to sell a limited number of truckloads of gravel per week. In order to make the operation viable, I'm asking for 2 modifications to my permit. The first is that I not be required to construct a left turn lane until my business has grown enough to warrant that to happen. My second request is that number 10 on my permit be modified, which states that this special exceptions permit is subject to a renewal by the Board of Supervisors 1 year from the date of commencement of the mining operation. My concern is that I could spend a great deal of money to start operations only to have the county deny the renewal of the special exception permit after 1 year. There is no way the mining operation can make enough money in 1 year to pay back all the startup costs. All I am asking for is the same conditions that all the other mining operations have that were approved by the Caroline Board of Supervisors. All of those permits provide that the county may review the permit at any time for non-compliance. but they do not have the one-year renewal requirement that my existing permit has, which could shut me down permanently at any time. It is worth pointing out that the other permits are for mostly wholesale operations. My mine will be mostly retail, so unlike the others, I will be paying sales tax, which I estimate to be somewhere around $400,000 for the duration of my operation. I have owned and farmed property in this area since 1980. As many of you know, I have placed a permanent conservation easement over 293 acres, which will ensure that my farm will continue to be farmed during my lifetime and during my children's and grandchildren's lifetime in perpetuity, in fact, by someone. I have no intention of ever selling the property. In addition to any income that the mining operation may generate, my end game is to have a large, sustainable irrigation pond that would match the irrigation needs of the 293 acres that I have placed in permanent green space. The DEQ of Virginia predicts that groundwater will run out and or become brackish and unusable for farming irrigation purposes in 10 years or so. I think the county is already aware of that because deep wells aren't sustainable for the county purposes as well, for that same reason. Since the 293 acres of green space can only be used for farming and never for development, then its only use as farmland would be greatly diminished without irrigation. By the way, my sand and gravel reserves are very small compared to the other permitted pits, very small. All my life's work in the farming business is tied up in my farm. The two amendments I have requested will enable me in future generations to continue to use my property as a sustainable farm for the community. I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sneed. We will go on with the public hearing, and if you wouldn't mind, you could just have a seat down front, and if board members have questions, they will get to them after the public hearing is closed. Okay, is there any other citizen who would like to speak regarding this public hearing?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Trish Parker. I live in the Port Royal District, about a mile from Mr. Sneed's farm. It disturbs me greatly to think the board might choose to ignore the advice of our Planning Commission in regards to this mine. As you know, the vote against these changes was 5-0. Let me say that again. Everyone on the Planning Commission was against the changes. If everyone on the Planning Commission says this is not a positive thing for the county, the assumption would be that it would not pass, right? And why isn't this issue coming up at the January meeting where it was originally scheduled? Could it be that this board feels that the newly elected board would not pass these changes? It sure does seem that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing?
Good evening, Board. Good evening. My name is John Stoddard from the Port Royal District. I'm here tonight to lend my support for Mr. Sneed's request before the Board. When the Board approved Mr. Sneed's original request for the mine sand and gravel on Clark's Cut 2, I stood in favor of his request, knowing full well the obstacles he would face. The Board at that time knew these obstacles as well, but saw the merits and benefits of the project and voted to approve the request. The expected lawsuits followed quite quickly. This Board and Mr. Sneed had to accept and answer this challenge because of the benefits they saw in the project for Caroline County. Today, this Board and Mr. Sneed have pursued the challenge through the legal system, costing tens of thousands of dollars and harsh criticism. I believe Mr. Sneed has honored his end of the bargain in this matter and has paid the legal fees and endured the criticism. He has compiled with the request of the board and worked within the letter of the law to gain what this board has requested and approved. Due to time and legal wranglings, Mr. Sneed has found a need to ask for the changes he seeks here tonight. These are not draconian changes he seeks. He is not asking for any favors, just a fair shake. I base my support for Mr. Sneed and his request on the following. Within a matter of a few months after approval, Mr. Sneed began planning a screening of trees to answer neighbors' concerns of visual intrusion and wildlife habitat impact. Mr. Sneed has worked with the county, state, and federal officials to answer the concerns raised by neighbors to make his project better. He has partnered with Tommy Welch, a local and well-respected businessman, in order to provide a better product and revenue for the taxpayers of Caroline. Mr. Sneed has established himself as one of the state's leading agribusinessmen, proving his business savvy and stewardship of the land. He and his wife, Ellen, have developed a business that draws thousands of visitors to Caroline County every year to buy Christmas trees, pumpkins, and a variety of the finest produce in the area. The Sneed's Farm is a showcase of good business practice, providing good, clean family fun and education for all ages. Mr. Sneed has put 293 acres of his land into conservation as easement, as he stated, that will protect and buffer his neighbors and our military men and women from the encroaching developments in perpetuity. Sneed's Farm is an established and integral part of Caroline County. It came this way because Mr. Sneed and his family have a deep and abiding respect for the land and its many uses. I trust you gentlemen will approve Mr. Sneed's request tonight. Both this board and Mr. Sneed have come a long way since your approval. If given the chance, I'm sure Mr. Sneed can again prove he is a man of his word, is a good steward of the land, and can create a business that is environmentally friendly and a good revenue producer for the citizens of Caroline County. Thank you very much. And on a personal note, I want to thank Mr. Taylor and Mr. Akors for your service to our county over all these years. I know you'll be greatly missed by a lot of people. And I know over the years, since we started together, I've learned a lot from both of you. And I look forward to dealing with you on other issues throughout the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I speak for myself and my husband, Cheryl and Don C. We live in the Port Royal District, a quarter of a mile from Mr. Sneed's farm. Mr. Sneed previously fought for and was approved by you for this special exemption permit. You are aware that this proposing mining operation has never commenced. Now Mr. Sneed wants to amend the permit. Should he not have included all of his wants in his first request? This surely is unclear to us. Will he mine as you have approved or not? First, Mr. Sneed desires to change the requirement for a renewal to a year to 5 years as opposed to the original 1 year. That seems to be water under the bridge now, to return asking for the permit to be changed. Secondly, instead of going forward with the approved permit, Mr. Sneed wants to remove the requirement for road improvements at that site so that he can attempt another course of action. Has that plan of action been solidified with that adjacent mining operation? You gentlemen indeed have spent a great deal of time and energy studying and approving the original request. Must you continue to make decisions regarding more desired changes for the same permit? Were you not more than generous to approve the original request? The Planning Commission has heard these requests, deliberated, and unanimously decided against them. My husband and I do not approve of the amendments he is requesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. C. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Joe Parker. I reside at 19491 Tidewater Trail, Port Royal Voting District, which is less than a mile from the proposed mine. If you go back 15 years, Mr. Sneed had no intention of mining at that time. And we all know things change, conditions change, and that kind of thing. And everybody spoke up here about how it's been so nice that the land's been put in a conservation easement, which I also agree is a good thing. He was, remember, however, paid over $1 million from the government for those development rights. It wasn't like he's sacrificing. He also has permission to continue to farm, timber, and if you see fit, to mine. So he has his cake and can eat it too, which is good for him if it goes to that. But I'm here to, I was against the mine in the beginning for many, many reasons, and I have heard nothing here that eases my mind. In fact, originally, Mr. Sneed made it clear that this was a small project to be done by him and one partner, almost a do-it-yourself type project. That seems to have changed now, and we really have no idea who will be doing the work. The driveway access and egress is not set at all, and changing that condition would set a very dangerous precedent, in my opinion. That is a huge issue. Then there's the matter of the Planning Commission. They voted to deny the changes by a unanimous 5-0 vote. Why in the world would the Board of Supervisors vote to undermine the Planning Commission? The Planning Commission asked a lot of questions, got very few answers, and made the right decision. The renewal, if you decide to do that, if you decide to change that, I really urge you to do the 1-year thing at least first and see how it goes. If he's doing great and all the neighbors are hunky-dory, everything's wonderful, maybe you can change it to 2 years. But don't change it now. That would not be very smart. I urge you to confirm the unanimous vote. It is the right thing to do at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing? Seeing no one with the desire to speak, I will now close the public hearing. Board members have questions regarding the public hearing? Mr. Black?
Yeah, Mr. Fincham, I just want to go over a couple of things with you. I just want to make sure I'm just kind of doing a timeline in my head, and I just want to make sure I know it's been stated tonight, but I want to make sure. This came to the Planning Commission originally in June, is that correct?
Get my right permit here. Yes, sir. I believe the application was actually filed in about April.
Okay.
Going through the TRC process,
right. Okay.
It got to the Planning Commission in June.
And from what I read in the notes, they deferred it till July. Is that it was deferred a month? Or came back to them in July?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then in July, they made a decision based on the conditions, which were like, I guess, a bunch of conditions, correct? And they voted 5-0 unanimously to deny. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They voted to deny the requested changes.
And then at that point, the applicant filed for a delay until January. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So
I'm not sure exactly which board meeting that request came to the board, but the request was to defer it until January.
Okay, so it was originally scheduled for sometime one of our meetings in January, and then at that point, our last meeting, it was changed yet again for the December meeting. Is that correct?
I believe that request came to the board at your first meeting in November.
Okay. The vote that the Planning Commission took, the unanimous 5-0 vote that the Planning Commission took, the comments, like when you see the comments from different agencies,
Yes,
like
sir.
I see, for an example, a comment that's dated in April from the Sheriff's Office.
Yes, sir.
And the Sheriff's Office reports, it's signed by Sheriff Lopez, says, I have concerns, basically it's concerns, I'm just paraphrasing here, I have concerns over traffic issues.
Yes, sir. I believe the concerns, as well as VDOT and staff, related to the modification, to the removal of the left turn lane.
Okay.
And the modification of the right turn or decel lane.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
I guess my next question is, I don't see any, unless I'm missing it, maybe I missed something big, but I don't see any other comments from the Sheriff's Department or VDOT beyond April. So in other words,
that is correct.
So these have not gone back to the Sheriff's Office with, the turning lanes, nothing has gone back, nothing has been changed from the Sheriff's Office. This doesn't have to go back to the Sheriff's Office for comments with changing conditions at all. In other words, we don't get like, hey, these conditions have changed. We want the Sheriff's Office to consider this, or we want VDOT to consider this.
In this case, no, we did not, because the modification, the language that we have suggested that you consider, I think addressed the concerns of both of those agencies in their original application. The concern was the elimination of the left turn lane. That is not proposed anymore. There's a left turn lane either at the existing entrance to aggregate industries, and if they could not secure that access, then they are still required to install the left turn lane as was originally conditioned with the original SC.
But the bottom line is I still don't have something from Sheriff's Office saying, hey, we are okay with this now.
That's true. That's correct.
We still don't have something with VDOT, because I'm seeing something in VDOT on dated April 18th. Cover sheet indicates that the AM peak hourly volume is 22 vehicles per hour. Yet the total generated traffic by this site is shown as 30 vehicles per day. So there's a discrepancy right there that VDOT was asking to be fixed. I don't see that is rectified anywhere. And I'm just kind of curious. That may be a clerical error. I understand that. But I'm not seeing anything past. All this stuff to me is dated sometime. And I know there are other agencies involved. Those are the two that stuck out to me. Those are all dated. The last date I see from any agency is in April.
That's correct. And you will also note in VDOT staff report that there is a condition or a comment where they actually recommend that we consider utilizing the existing entrance to aggregate industries for access to this property. And this suggested condition, as modified by staff, I believe addresses that issue. But no, we do not have any update from them that says, yes, you've addressed that concern. Although it's evident to me that we have addressed that comment. But you're right, we don't have an updated report from VDOT.
The other question I have, and I guess it was something in an email that we got earlier, and I don't know if maybe our county attorney could answer the question. And just kind of for a curiosity, do other boards of supervisors have any statutes in place where in a lame duck period on a board of supervisors, land use issues are not addressed? Can you talk to that? Because I saw a statement about that, and I just wanted to clarify if that's fact or fiction.
Yeah, that may occur. We don't in Caroline County have any, and I'm not sure that would be legal, frankly, since you serve until your office is over.
Okay.
Mr. Underwood. Mr. Fincham, are you finished, Mr. Black? Yeah. Okay, thank you. He's good, okay. You mentioned that both concerns had been addressed regarding the ingress-egress and using the second.
I think there was still, I think staff has tried to address those concerns with, I guess it would be version 3 of the conditions, where it notes here, staff recommends the modifications as follows.
Right.
I think we attempted to address those concerns, but no, we did not go back to those agencies to make sure that our language did, in fact, do that.
Right, I understand that. Do you, Mr. Fincham, have any additional concerns regarding the request here before us?
I think we have attempted to draft or to make modifications to the language for the board to consider. I think if you as a board have additional concerns, then we will attempt to, again, modify or craft language to address those issues.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Mr. Akers?
Yeah, Mr. Fincham, condition number 11, has that been authorized? Has that been finalized as to being able to happen?
No, sir.
It has not?
No, sir.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's good. Go ahead. I'll answer your question.
Okay. But if they're not able to get permission from the adjacent mining operation to use their entrance, then what does that put
their entrance and the improvements would be the same as those were required with the original special exception permit.
I saw where Mr. Thompson had tried to incorporate into the motion, and he may have been able to have done that, but the motion failed anyway, to change it whereas when the warrants required the turning lane into his facility, then that would take place. Now, who determines when the warrants determine that the need is there? VDOT?
A warrant analysis is a VDOT requirement.
Okay. So it's not Mr. Sneed that decides that as to, hey, now I think I want to put in a turning lane. The highway department will then, VDOT will then tell him, you are required to put the turning lane in because the traffic count and the warrant's required.
I think there would have to be an additional step in the conditions.
Okay.
That there's some review during that time period that would actually allow the traffic impacts to be monitored along the way. Some language that VDOT could require or the applicant would provide whatever traffic study VDOT would need in order to perform that warrant analysis. I think the requirement for the left turn lane from the public health and safety perspective, notwithstanding VDOT's warrant requirements for a turn lane, I think the board has consistently, where you have arterials, required that left turn lane to ensure the through flow of traffic along those arterials. And I think it would be a lot more cumbersome to try to draft a amendment to a condition that had a warrant analysis in there.
Okay, that's fine.
Good. Mr. Seeley?
I guess my only question was, has Aggregate Industries agreed to that entrance?
No, sir. Not at this point in time, not that I'm aware of, which is why we had suggested the caveat that it revert back to the original entrance if it could not be secured.
Thank you.
Mr. Seeley, did you get the letter from Mr. Lemming?
We did. We all did.
Okay.
It just arrived, and I can't say that I've had a chance to read it.
Okay. You have a question? Other questions, Mr. Fields?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. I just have a couple of questions. I guess questions and comments. A renewal, again, for the sake of clarification. At the end of a year, the board would then vote as to whether or not Mr. Sneed would keep his operation or keep his special exception.
Yes, sir. He basically would have to start that process
all over
about 6 to 8 months after he started.
Is there
in order to meet the year.
Okay. Is there any other operation that has that condition? Any other approved operation in the county with that condition?
There are not currently any that I am aware of that are active right now that are subject to a renewal. I seem to recall in the past that there was a renewal for 1 or 2 permits. Again, that's history and some years ago.
But presently, in the ones we have approved over the last several years, we've not required that.
I don't recall any, no, sir.
Okay. A review. If Mr. Sneed is given what he's asking for, and this board decides to go with a review, if Mr. Sneed does not meet the conditions of his special exception, can we not shut him down?
You can invoke on your own motion for failure to comply with conditions. The board can consider revocation of a special exception permit, and in fact, you have done that previously.
So basically, in my understanding of this, we can do the same thing for this board or whoever the board is. If the review comes, having said that, I would move that we approve the special exception requested by Mr. Sneed along with the changes. If I can get a second.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve the special exception requested by Mr. Seeley with the changes. All in favor, let it be known by saying.
Which changes? The applicant's version?
Yeah, the applicant's version.
Or
staff's version, 10 and 11.
With the comments noted by staff?
With the comments noted by staff.
Can I
Is
ask
the question?
Yeah, I mean, just to overindulge me, if you would, please. Could you read me what you have for 10 and 11 to make sure I'm on the same page?
Yes, sir.
I think we've already said we got 4 versions, so we just want to make sure we have the right version before we vote on it.
On page 4, Mr. Thomas.
I got electronic, so page 4 might be different, but go right ahead.
Page 4 doesn't match conditions than what I've got.
My page 4,
Page 1
condition
says staff
number
report.
10 proposed, to ensure compliance with this permit, the Board of Supervisors may direct the Planning Commission to review the special exception permit anytime after site plan approval, including required reviews every 5 years after site plan approval. Notwithstanding the foregoing, in the event the applicant is not deemed or found to be in compliance, the applicant, for all purposes, will be afforded the opportunity within a reasonable time period to cure any noncompliance issues in accordance with the zoning ordinance of Caroline County. My suggestion was that you strike that last sentence.
Any new operator. Right. Because I am saying it is exclusively a property rights issue. If the owner maintains it, the owner has certain rights. If the owner sells it, it's another story, and that any new operator wouldn't be applicable or applicable depending upon where you come from.
Now, for simplicity purposes, my suggestion would be that you just specify a review period.
Right.
1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years.
Okay.
Keep it simple. Because that then speaks to Mr. Taylor or Mr. Seeley's concern about the revocation of the permit.
And I think Mr. Taylor, once we have this, can clarify all that in his motion if he so desires. And that we know what page we're on, so everybody have that.
Staff comments on condition number 11 basically kept condition 11 as in the current permit with the first sentences. The applicant shall install the road improvements as shown on the general development plan and as required or recommended by the Virginia Department of Transportation. In addition, the applicant shall install a left turn lane eastbound from Route 17 at the approved entrance. That's the current condition.
You struck in addition.
The additional language would state, in lieu of constructing the road improvements identified above, including the left turn lane, the applicant may utilize the existing commercial entrance for Mid-Atlantic Materials, Tax Map 4-A-1A, to access and develop the site, subject to the approval of VDOT and the property owner of Tax Map 4-A-1A. Thereafter, for so long as the applicant utilizes access to the subject property from the existing entrance, then the foregoing road improvements will not be required. That was an attempt, if something happened and the written agreement was temporary or voided, at that point in time, the applicant would have to come back and install the originally permitted improvements.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman?
Okay. I was just asking Mr. Sneed, do you understand, Mr. Sneed, do you understand what he just read? And is that what you were intention? Is that your intention as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Can I ask Mr. Finch again?
Okay.
Just before we vote. Mr. Finch, again, I guess I go back to my original question about the commonality of language in terms of a review versus a renewal versus anything else, to make sure that that we have some standard in terms of language and time that are consistent throughout all mining operations. I certainly wouldn't want to do one thing here and then we are doing something somewhere else. Again, I'm trying to get to a standard in terms of the renewal and the review process. Can we include that in the special exception to where we have a standard so we're all talking apples to apples and oranges to oranges?
But Mr. Chairman,
okay, go ahead.
Could I just to make sure, because by definition, special exceptions are each one unto itself
That's
is
true.
unique.
Yeah,
You're right.
that's right.
And
So yeah.
in a case with, especially when we talk about Cheney, they may have had millions of dollars to say, yeah, go right ahead, I'll review it every month.
You're right.
But
This is a
in
much
this
smaller
case,
operation.
it may not be a good thing to have always a standard.
Okay.
You're right. Thanks, Mr.
I don't want to be right.
Taylor.
I just want to be happy.
Okay, all right. We have heard the motion. For clarity, one last time, I would like for you to read the motion, just for clarity, so that everybody understands, so every board member understands what they're voting on.
I haven't written the motion down.
Yeah.
But it
Okay, could we take a 5-minute break? We can take a 5-minute break, and you write the motion, and we'll come back in 5 minutes. Okay?
Okay.
We will reconvene the December 8th Board of Supervisors meeting, and I would ask that Mr. Fincham would read the motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I believe this is the motion that I heard. To ensure compliance with this permit, the Board of Supervisors may direct the Planning Commission to review this special exception permit at any time after site plan approval. However, a review shall be required every 5 years after site plan approval. And the condition 11 would be the current language. The applicant shall install the road improvements as shown on the general development plan and as required or recommended by the Virginia Department of Transportation. In addition, the applicant shall install a left turn lane eastbound from Route 17 at the approved entrance. In lieu of constructing the road improvements identified above, including the left turn lane, the applicant may utilize the existing commercial entrance for Mid-Atlantic Materials, Tax Map 4-A-1A, to access and develop the site, subject to the approval of VDOT and the property owner of Tax Map 4-A-1A. Thereafter, for so long as the applicant utilizes access to the subject property from the existing entrance, then the foregoing road improvement shall not be required.
Okay, my motion then is as was read. Yes, sir.
No, I'm just...
No.
You left a part of Let me show you. Left that out to down there. You're going to strike the last sentence.
I heard them say that, I heard that that wasn't.
But Mr. Sneed, no, we have to go by what?
Okay.
Mr. Sneed's concern is that, and we were discussing this during the break, his request was notwithstanding the foregoing, in the event the applicant is not deemed or found to be in compliance, the applicant for all purposes shall be afforded the opportunity within a reasonable time period to cure any noncompliance issues in accordance with the zoning ordinance of Caroline County.
Okay. In simple terms, meaning?
There was a lot of discussion. We heard the comments about keeping it consistent, keeping it simple. The board needs to tell me whether they want to keep that in there. I'm not sure that we heard you wanted to keep that.
Okay. Right. Basically, what I heard the board say was that special exceptions are on their own merit. They're different. And so they may not necessarily be consistent because each one is based on its own merit. A large company like Cheney is very different from a small company like Mr. Sneed. So, how does the board?
That's what I said.
That's
why we agree.
Okay.
So it's not necessary that it be the same.
Right.
The first version is what? What?
They're individual. Therefore, we're looking at it as an individual entity based on what you're reading. Each one holds its own merit.
So based on that, you wanted the abbreviated version that I read to you initially.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct, because that's what.
Right.
Okay, I think that was our understanding, but...
Okay. So, would you just read that, Bill?
To ensure compliance with this permit, the Board of Supervisors may direct the Planning Commission to review the special exception permit at any time after the site plan approval. However, a review shall be required every 5 years after site plan approval.
That's what we want. Okay, we have heard the motion as it was read. That is my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we will approve the motion as read. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Thomas, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Nay.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye.
Mr. Akers?
Aye.
Mr. Seeley?
Nay.
And I vote aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I would vote for the record, I would like to change my vote to aye, please.
You may change your vote if you like.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion passes 5-1. Okay. Let's go to special exception 04-2015 Moss Neck Holdings, LLC, owner, applicant.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next public hearing tonight is SPEX 04-2015 Moss Neck Holdings, LLC, owner and applicant. They are requesting a special exception permit in accordance with Article 17, Section 13, and Article 4, Section 5.5 of the Caroline County Zoning Ordinance on a portion of tax map 4-A-10 consisting of approximately 5.6 acres. The property is located on Moss Neck Manor Road on the southwest quadrant of Tidewater Trail and Burma Road in the Port Royal voting district. The proposed use is a campground/camping area. The 2030 comprehensive plan identifies this area as being within a resource-sensitive overlay district and designated as agricultural preservation with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 25 acres. Again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have the staff report in your packet. A brief background for the board, I believe, is in order. The subject property has been the subject of a notice of violation for a campground and has been going through that process for a period of time. Staff received a complaint relative to the use of the property as a campground and investigated that complaint. Based upon some discussions with the county attorney's office, it was deemed that the property had been developed / was being used as a campground, which requires a special exception permit under the county zoning ordinance. No such permit had been issued. Since it requires an SC, the board had not considered a special exception application, and a notice of violation was issued. The applicant subsequently appealed the NOV to the Board of Zoning Appeals, which upheld staff's determination relative to the NOV for the campground, and that determination or decision has been appealed to the Caroline County Circuit Court. Pursuant to that, the applicant has submitted an application for a campground in accordance with the ordinance requirements. I believe you have some pictures in your staff report which show the improvements that consist of a concrete pad with 5 water, sewer, and electric hookups that would allow 5 RVs to be to park on the facilities and to use those facilities. There was some discussion previously about the health department permit. The health department previously did issue a permit for this property for the 5 non-residential RV hookups. There's some question about whether that was the appropriate permit, and the health department has come back and said that that facility needs to be re-permitted as a campground under their regulations. Even though, based upon the facilities that are there, it is a campground by their own definition. So they're now saying that that permit has to be upgraded. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on this application and did forward this to the board with a recommendation of approval by a vote of 4-1. And with that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Board members have questions before the opening of the public hearing? If not, I will open the public hearing for special exception 04-2015 Moss Neck Holdings LLC applicant. If the applicant is here, I will allow you to go first, and then I will allow anyone else who would like to speak to that public hearing after this. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Richard Stewart, and I represent the applicant. We are here seeking a special exception for a campground, but I can assure you that my client does not want to operate a campground. I know that doesn't make any sense. He's got 3 RVs, 2 RVs there now, I believe. They are his private RVs. He does not do this for profit. He stays there periodically. He lives in Boca Raton, Florida. When he comes up here, he has not used it this year at all. This is just a private area for him to be able to use his RV on his 1,200-acre farm. And the reason we have to do that is because of the way the ordinance is written in Caroline County. And in an effort to comply with the ordinance, if you look at your ordinance, and I've talked to the county attorney about this, it's any area that is occupied and intended or designed or improved for temporary occupancy by individuals using recreation vehicles or tents or motorhomes. Basically, if you want to camp on your own property in Caroline County, you got to have a special exception to do it. So we're here asking for that. He will not have it other than his family or his friends utilize it. It will not be for profit. It will just be for his private, personal use. He also stores them there. So when he's here 3 or 4 times a year at most for 4 or 5 days at a time, he'll be utilizing the RV. Otherwise, it's sitting there in storage. But when you store them, you got to have electricity, water to them, so forth and so on. Mr. Chairman, the only other thing I would ask is we agree with all the conditions that staff put in this, except I would ask for you all to reconsider condition number 6, and it's found on your report at page 4. And this calls for renewal after 1 year. And I hate to bring up a dead horse, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I know you all are been here a long time. But if my client meets the criteria to camp on his 1,200-acre farm, I'm not sure why we would want to have to reapply every year to do that. And as you heard before, you've got to reapply 4 months after you get approval to start the process to get through. And I heard the discussion regarding the other application and the difference between a renewal and a review. The fact of the matter is, and you have extremely able counsel sitting at the table, and I would never seek to give you all legal advice, you don't need either of that. At any time, you can send Mr. Fincham or any other agent of the county into a piece of property where you have a special exception. You can ask him to see what's going on there, and if they're not in compliance, you can bring it back to the board and you can revoke that special exception. So all these are unnecessary. And it's just another step that you put on yourselves to ensure compliance on these. If anybody violates the term in a special exception, you all have the authority to revoke that special exception, and you don't have to put provisions for renewals or reviews. I don't want to go on because I know you've been here all night. I just want to make it clear it's just for his private use. This is not a for-profit operation, and it's just for his RVs that he's going to keep there. And I'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing?
Good evening again. And contrary to popular belief, I am not always speaking against everything that you guys bring before here. Usually if I'm not here, I'm either agreeing with what you're doing or it's not close enough to affect me that much. Anyway, my name is Joe Parker. I still reside at 19491 Tidewater Trail, Port Royal Voting District.
We live and operate a business directly across from the Moss Neck property. My problem with this campground is that the owner says he's only there a few times a year. Who's minding the store, so to speak, when he is not there? At the Planning Commission meeting, there were questions about personal property tax on the trailers there, as well as how long can people stay there. Those were not really answered very well. And again, who's going to check on this to see if they're in compliance? Is there a entity that goes around and checks things like that for the county? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. This landowner has twice been issued a cease and desist order for illegally mining sand and gravel and for illegally operating this campground. The Zoning Appeals Commission voted 6-0 to uphold the violations. This company has a history of doing things illegally, then getting caught, then begging forgiveness, and then asking for permission. That is the wrong order, don't you think? That's not the order things should work. In my opinion, I'd just say no based on history. If you do approve this, please do what you can to keep an eye on them, because apparently they can't be trusted. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak regarding this public hearing?
Emmett Sneed, 18294 Tidewater Trail, Fredericksburg, Virginia, 22408. I've known Larry Silver. I went to high school with him, and now I'm lucky enough to have him as a neighbor. We share a border that's 1.5 miles long, and I just wish that all my neighbors were half as reasonable as he is. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak regarding this public hearing? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak regarding this public hearing? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing? Seeing no one with the desire to speak, I will declare the public hearing closed. Board members have questions regarding this special exception?
Yeah, on this one?
Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Fincham?
Yes, sir.
We've discussed renewal and review repeatedly, and I think we almost understand. In this particular case, what is the investment that you would know? There's no real investment at this particular site. They've already built the pad sites, so it's just a matter of them pulling RVs there onto the pad sites. So, in your opinion, there's no issue with the review because there's no capital outlay at stake, right?
I think the issue is the construction of the single-family dwelling for which a permit has been issued and why a campground or these camping facilities are needed once the certificate of occupancy is issued for that single-family dwelling.
You brought up a totally different subject. but okay. I think I understand. Thank you.
Mr. Black, you have a question? Oh, I'm sorry, were you through, Mr. Thomas?
I am definitely through. Thank you.
Mr. Black?
Can you just I just got a couple questions. Can you take me through, I asked you on the last one, the same thing, the history behind this, how we've gotten here, so I'm very clear on that. What is the reason for the issue of the NOV? Let's start there.
Some years back, and I don't have the exact time, we received a complaint about certain improvements on the property. There was some confusion in the file in terms of the actions or inactions of the then zoning administrator. We had received another complaint, discussed the issue with the county attorney, and it was determined that in fact the language from the previous zoning administrator's letters did not address the campground issue itself, or it was vague enough that it did not appear that the then zoning administrator had authorized the improvements. So a notice of violation was issued subject to that or based upon that complaint that had been received. The applicant appealed the notice of violation to the Board of Zoning Appeals, which upheld the issuance of the NOV. And then the applicant subsequently appealed the BZA's decision to the circuit court, which it is still pending in circuit court at this time. On a parallel track, after the BZA's decision, the applicant came in and applied for a special exception permit under the appropriate sections of the ordinance, seeking to receive approval of the special exception permit to allow those facilities to continue and be permitted as a campground under our definition.
I guess my question is this. Let me say that Joe, whoever, camper, and I want to go out and buy an RV. Okay, I have a piece of property, it doesn't matter where in Caroline County, especially, let's say, outside of the subdivision. So let's take Lake Landor out of it, but I want to go buy an RV on my property. I have a house, and I want to put the RV on my property. If I go to the county right now and ask for an electric hookup, or ask for sewer hookup, what's going to happen?
The answer would be no.
The answer right now is no.
That's correct.
And I'm going to ask you this as well. Do we know in other counties, is that a common theme in other counties?
I cannot definitively tell you that other counties don't do or don't allow a single RV hookup on vacant property. I really can't address that issue. So I'd feel more comfortable just speaking to our own regulations. I couldn't tell you whether they would issue a permit or not.
So we don't know that. What would stop me, just out of curiosity, what would stop me if from renting, like from that point on, I could make that a rental property? What would stop me from doing that?
Notwithstanding the fact that converting it to a rental facility would violate the ordinance, it would require discovery on our part, either through a complaint or to happen upon that rental unit and finding that it was in fact being used as a rental unit or in a manner that it was not permitted to be used for. So it would be it could in theory be done. It might still be a violation. That violation could go undiscovered for some period of time.
Okay, my last question is this type of violation that the NOV has this been common? Has this been something that's been common in Carolina over the last several years, or is this kind of a...
No, I don't think we occasionally receive complaints about RVs being used for occupancy. I seem to recall there was one not too long ago over off of Anderson Mill Road. So we receive complaints on occasion about the use of RVs for permanent occupancy. In effect, a third or fourth or fifth bedroom or something like that. So it happens on occasion.
Okay, thank you. That's all for now.
Mr. Underwood, Mr. Akers, Mr. Seeley.
Yes, sir. I want to go back even a little further. They referred to this as a 1,200-acre piece of property. And take me through, is it 1,200 acres or is it no longer 1,200 acres?
It is two separate parcels, I believe.
But it was a minor subdivision done to create that?
There was a subdivision that split the 1,200 into two parcels, yes, sir.
Do you know when that took place?
I don't have the exact date. It was done within the last 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
The applicant might have that date.
That's fine. So we're actually talking about two parcels. Well, that's fine.
On the 1,200, for the 1,200, yes.
Okay.
In terms of this permit application, no, it's still just one parcel.
It's parcel. And so it's the smaller of the two.
Yes, sir.
So on that smaller parcel that these campsites are on, correct? That's where they're on. They're on the smaller parcel.
Yes, sir.
There are also two houses that are rented.
Yes, sir.
There is one building for the Hunt Club that has a conference room, a bedroom, and a bathroom.
I can't speak to whether that's for a hunt club or not, but there
It's
is...
another building that
Yes,
has
sir.
a conference room, bedroom, bathroom. There are 3 tenant trailers that were moved there over a year ago, sitting alongside Burma Road. That was
Three farm tenant structures.
okay. There's an 1,800 square foot garage conditioned for the storage of the RV, as we were told. I mean, he didn't tell us it was conditioned. I've found that out. There's a workshop on this parcel. Part of this parcel is also, I believe, part of the sand and gravel permit that was granted
Yes, sir.
some time ago. There's a 10,000 square foot storage building, and there are at least 24 hog pens that were put up some time ago. So this is all on the same piece of property that we are looking at to have 5 campsites. And then across from these campsites, I understand there's a permit to build a 26,000 square foot home, 12 bedrooms and 14 bathrooms. And we still are looking at 5 campsites.
Yes, sir. That is a request pending before you.
But the rest of this, there is a permit for a structure.
It was just issued last week. Yes, sir.
No, but it's still part of the 1,200 acres. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions? No, just me. Okay, the one question that I have is, this is a scenario. I have a family reunion. My nephew comes from Chicago. He has a RV. He drives, parks it. He stays in it the weekend. He leaves Sunday, and he goes back to Chicago. He doesn't have to have a permit to do that. What's the difference?
Here you have 5 permitted sites, not 1.
So I got 5 nephews with camp. Seriously, I'm trying to see. I mean, people bring campers in, and and they spend a weekend at a parent's home or whatever. They come from out of town. They drive a camper, and they park it for a day, or they park it for 2 days, and they leave and go back to where they live. What is the difference?
I simply go back to the improved pad site, Mr. Taylor.
Okay. Other questions? Motion is in order.
I make a motion to deny application SPX 04-2015, Moss Neck Manor LLC's request for campgrounds.
Is there a second?
Second.
We moved in proper second that we deny special exception 04-2015 Moss Neck Holdings. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
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 All against, nay.
Nay.
Mr. Thomas, how do you vote?
I vote nay.
Mr. Black?
I vote aye.
Mr. Underwood?
I vote nay.
Mr. Akers?
Nay.
Mr. Sealy? And I vote.
I vote
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought
nay.
you. Okay. And I vote nay. Okay.
And, Mr. Taylor, I'm going to change my vote from yay to nay with a possible reconsideration at our next board meeting.
Another vote is in order. I would like to move, that motion failed. So I am moving that we approve special exception 04-2015 Moss Neck Holdings LLC applicant and owner.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve special exception 04-2015 for Moss Neck Holdings as presented. Mr. Thomas, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Mr. Black?
This discussion, we're saying with the 1 year review, right?
As
We're
presented.
leaving the
yeah.
1 year review in.
Yeah.
Okay, I vote aye.
Okay.
Is that a review or renewal? A review or renewal?
Whichever one is stricter or more strict.
That would be renewal.
Okay, are we saying renewal? Is that what the board is saying?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Mr. Black?
Nay.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye.
Mr. Akers?
Aye.
Mr. Sealy?
Nay.
And I vote aye. The motion carries 4-2. Okay, unfinished business. Presentation of bids received for tax exempt and bank qualified lease.
Mr. Taylor, I'd like to change my vote to aye, and I would still like the option of a possibility of reconsideration next board meeting.
You may change your vote, but the vote has already been taken. Okay.
No, my vote has been changed to aye, so it makes it 5 ayes,
Okay.
1 nay, with the possibility to reconsider it next board meeting.
You don't have to explain that, Mr. Sealy.
That's true. Okay, unfinished business. Unfinished business.
Yes.
Presentation of bids received for tax exempt and bank qualified lease review refunding bonds series 2015. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Doug Gebhardt, and I'm with Davenport and Company. I'm here representing Courtney Rogers, who sends his apologies he can't make it tonight. As you recall, we came to your November board meeting requesting permission to distribute an RFP to potentially refinance the Series 2005 bonds and add some new money for fire trucks and sheriff's cars. And I believe the presentation will be going up on the board shortly.
Yes, sir.
Great. Flipping to page 2 is, this will become relevant as we go further into the presentation, but as you can see, over the past 6 months, interest rates have been relatively volatile. On the left-hand side, you can see the 10-year U.S. Treasury over the past 6 months, where it's risen quite drastically over the past week, but since June it has fluctuated quite a bit. And then on the right-hand side, it is the Treasury rates as of last week. The 10-year Treasury is not what municipal bonds are priced off of, but it's a good indication on where things have. So you can see there's quite a big spike on Friday. So as I mentioned earlier, on Friday, November 13th, Davenport, we sent out an RFP to refinance the Series 2005 bonds, which was going to have a rate reset in January. So the goal was to lock in that interest rate for the remainder of the term, potentially purchase a new fire truck and 10 sheriff's cars. On December 2nd, we received 5 bids, which is a testament to the county's strength. Typically, we receive anywhere from 1 to 3 proposals. So 5 is a great turnout, and we were very happy with the results. BB&T, Capital One, Signature Public Funding, Sterling National Bank, and Union Bank. Signature Public Funding and Sterling are out of New York City, and the others are relatively local banks. A detailed summary of each proposal is in the appendix for your review, if you have further questions. Page 3, as it might be hard to see on this screen, but we highlighted and put in green the BB&T 15-year rate of 2.67%. That's the rate we're going to be recommending today. And this was just to give you a sense of where all the bids came in, and quite frankly, all 5 bids came in much lower than what we had anticipated in the November meeting. So it was a great turnout. You may look in the Union Bank, you will see a potentially lower rate on the 15 and 17 year. We italicized that. We wanted to note that those rates were not fixed. They were subject to change between now and a date to be determined, and Union was unable to provide us when the rate lock would occur, and with the potential Fed increasing short-term interest rates in their December 15 and 16th meetings, we weren't comfortable moving forward with those given the interest rate uncertainty. Also, those rates were subject to a make-whole call provision, which is another thing that gave us concern. What a make-whole call is, it essentially eliminates the ability to refinance if rates are lower. If rates are higher, there's no penalty, but we wouldn't refinance in that case. Flipping to page 4 is a summary of the BB&T proposal. They said they'll give us a 15-year fixed rate at an interest rate of 2.67. It was going to be prepayable at any time with 1% for the first half and then par thereafter. A few minor costs for closing. It is subject to credit approval, but that's something that all banks are doing these days, and that does not bring us any concern. As we will have to close by mid-January, but we're going to plan on doing that prior to calendar year end in order to preserve the bank qualified status of the loan. So what we did is, as you saw earlier, we asked for 15 and 17-year rates. By having a 15-year rate, we were able to shorten up the amortization. The current loan, which you'll see on the left-hand side, had 17 years left outstanding at an interest rate of 3.9%. By shortening it 5 years and having an interest rate almost 1.25% lower, we're able to amortize basically 2 years shorter at virtually no cash flow impact. You see on the right-hand side, the cash flow will increase slightly, as in your debt service will increase by about $6,800 annually. But based upon conversations with staff, that was a level that we were comfortable absorbing. And this scenario also did provide the highest gross savings of over $626,000 over the life of the loan. You may ask, well, what was the lowest 17-year rate if we want to not shorten it up? Well, you would get more cash flow savings in a given year of about $14,000. However, you'd end up paying approximately $390,000 of additional interest. So it helps on the cash flow side, but it increases your overall interest payments by paying interest for 2 more years at a higher interest rate. Any questions?
Board members have questions?
Not yet.
Okay, you will continue and
Yes,
then
sir.
we'll do it when you finish. Okay.
Yes, sir. So here's a breakout of the debt service. The left-hand side, column 1, is just what the debt service associated with the rate reset. The second column would be the fire truck, which we amortized over 10 years to match the useful life of the asset. And the sheriff's car was in the fourth column, which would be about $95,000 annually over 4 years, which again was to match the useful life of that asset. So this would be the estimated debt service on this bond. So Davenport's recommendation in conjunction with county staff would be to accept the BB&T proposal and move forward with the 2.67 interest rate. What that does is it has the lowest 15-year interest rate. It provides the highest savings number of $626,000, or over 7.5% net present value savings. The interest rate is fixed for 15 years, so there's no future interest rate risk. The existing loan had a rate reset in January and was subject to reset every 5 years thereafter. So this locks us in for the term of the loan. And then lastly, it provides prepayment flexibility, more so than any of the other proposals, at any time and without penalty after half the loan. So the next steps, tonight I presented the results, and we are going to ask you to approve a authorizing resolution which gives us permission to move forward on the bond. Bond counsel, Dan, has put together form documents for you to review. We'll be finalizing those with your approval over the next week or two and close on the 2015 bond the week of December 21st. And that's all I have for you all today. And there's, like I said, in the appendix, there's a detailed summary bids received for your review.
Okay, now does board members have questions? Mr. Thomas?
Yes. I think we have a spreadsheet or a presentation similar to that one. So I don't know if you have it down there or you just have.
Yes, sir.
The one electronic. I have, I think, page 6 of the presentation says total estimated debt service, and you've got what the reset number is, and then fire truck debt service, and then sheriff car debt service.
Correct.
Which is a little fuzzier than what I'm looking at, but I think that's it. Now, our total, I guess, our total rate reset is 5.549 million. And then it's going to cost us 6.4 when we're done, right? So we're basically paying $900,000 to borrow this money over 15 years.
The rate reset portion only is on page 5. If you flip to page 5.
Okay.
So the rate reset portion only is going to be an increased cash flow of approximately $6,800 annually. But over the life of the loan, by shortening it,
then I get back 641.
Correct.
Okay, so that was where I was, only a page ahead. The page ahead, I want to figure out, because my point before was, why don't we just buy the sheriff's cars and the fire truck now? So I have to do the math on that to subtract the two myself.
Correct. If you look on the fire truck debt service, it's going to cost about $52,000 annually. If you look in the interest column, on the bottom of that page, there's about $70,000 of interest associated with the fire truck. And then if you look in the last column under sheriff car debt service, there's going to be about $24,000 of interest.
So when we did it before in November, it was like $120,000 we were guesstimating, but now you've got a better rate than the one
Correct.
you gave us.
We like I said, all 5 proposals were better than we anticipated, and BB&T's was the recommended rate at this time.
So the bottom line is it cost us $90,000, $95,000 to finance the fire truck and the sheriff's cars.
Over the life of the loan, correct.
Right.
But I think, Mr. Cully, you recommended that we not pay for those, and that we
had budgeted this. We had
right.
budgeted for this to be financed, and it's nice to be able to pay for these things. But I've got a lot more capital things that are coming towards you this coming year, and another year before a lot of our development stuff comes. So I'm just trying to hang on to the money with interest rates being as low as they are, and be able to try to keep the tax rate level.
And I understand that. I just want to make sure I know what the numbers are, because the reality is, if we use too much of the unencumbered balance, we then have to get the cash flow loan, which costs us $100,000 to start.
So we're not
So
saving it.
I understand that. But with all the discussion about debt, and we should not have any more debt, or we should take care of our debt, if we can save some money by using some of the unencumbered balance, that's a good thing. Now, the question for me, and I'll think about it while other people have their questions, is $94,000, $95,000 worth of savings worth it when we talk about what the unencumbered balance would look like if we took $1 million out? And I think that's the reality.
It looks like about a $800,000 hit to your fund balance.
The only thing I would encourage you, as people talk about debt overall, just on the rate reset, you're going to save $626,000.
And I understand.
And so that you've got maybe $95,000, so now you're only saving $500. So you're still saving 2 cents on the tax rate with this whole financing package, including the interest on the fire truck and the police cars. We're trying to get to a point in the budget where we're going to be buying 5 school buses a year as a replacement cycle. And we're currently, since I've been here, had to finance all those. I'm trying to maybe this year buy 2 outright and finance 3. I'm trying to wean us off of all that, but it's hard to jump to that
and that's,
at one bite. So that, I mean, y'all do what you want, but it's a goal to get there, but I'm not sure we're there yet. And given that these interest rates are this strong, this low, I would certainly encourage us to continue to finance these things and let us work toward that goal of these capital things of vehicles and trucks and trash trucks and things, be able to purchase those on a schedule and get away from finance. I'd love to get there, but I just don't think we're there yet.
And I understand that. All I'm trying to do is put all the facts as I know them out. The other fact that I know is our debt went down $12 million last year, based on, or it was 139, now it's 127. So
because we're currently paying
principal,
we're paying those principals down.
I mean, that's a good thing. So that's just my thing. I just want to make sure where we are versus buying or selling, or buying or financing. Like at home, I don't have enough money to buy a new car. I got to finance it.
Okay, other questions? Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time.
We're going to get the lowest rate. We're saving money every time we refinance.
Yes. A motion is in order to move forward, or to allow them to move forward with what they need to do.
So move, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, so the
Wrong button. The other side.
oh, wrong button, sorry. So the motion is that to approve the resolution that's before you that authorizes going forward on this financing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr.
That's okay.
That's all right. It's been moved and properly second that we approve the resolution that's before us that allows them to move on with the process. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. All right,
Thank you.
the dormitory, Mr., you had asked to the allowance of dormitory issues?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Before Mr. Underwood starts, may I have a point of order? Because just to make sure we do it correctly, we can't just pull that agenda item up without a motion to reconsider. So I'm going to make the motion to reconsider for Mr. Underwood if he'll second it. And then if the board decides, we can go ahead and discuss it as much as you want.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to make a motion to reconsider.
Okay.
Since we voted against it at our last meeting. Okay. Mr. Underwood, would you second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second that we would reconsider the allowance of the dormitories from the last meeting. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, now,
Mr. Chairman, I spoke to Mr. Jim Rabbani, and I discussed my concern that we'd already given him a special exception to hook up to the septics, the water and sewer for the Virginia Sports Complex. As I told him, I would not and am not willing to negotiate the dormitory issue as part of him hooking up to the sewer system. So I wanted this board to know what I was discussing with him. My feeling is that I don't want the two to be connected, that I think he should hold up his end of the bargain. We gave him the special exception, that if he does that, then we will look at the dormitory text amendment, but I don't want to do a balancing act. So I want this board to be aware of where my feeling is. Certainly I want to be business friendly, but at the same time, I don't want to be backed into a corner and say that you said if I do this, you do this. So I want to come back to the board to get some comment about your feelings. Do you think we're heading in the right direction there, or you think we should work together to make this happen? And how can we?
One of the things, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding of what we did or did not do, we were looking at whether or not doing a text amendment that would allow dormitories in this setting. It really had nothing to do with him. It's my understanding.
I know, Mr. Chairman, but I know how people are. Once we say you can have dormitories, then it could become a legal issue as far as I'm concerned, where he says, well, I should be able to put dorms in. It's my right to do that.
No, with the special exception.
With the special exception.
Yeah. Right. But we would have to approve his special exception.
But what we're doing, or tried to do then and doing now, is we are only making a text amendment change that says dormitories are now allowed.
Period. Doesn't have anything to do with him.
Indirectly it does, but theoretically has nothing to do with him. So in doing that, he has to come back for a special exception to get a dormitory.
Mr. Fincher, this is the only location, only property in the county that this special exception or this tax amendment would apply to?
No, sir. I believe the board has approved 3 or 4 rural commercial recreational zonings.
Name them off.
Mr. B's. There's one off of Devil's 3 Jump that was for, I believe it was a sporting clay range, but that one's expired. That was like 10 years ago. They never did anything. And I believe there's one other that the board has approved. This is the only one where you have a training type facility where a dormitory, I think, would be viewed as consistent with the permit that's been issued. But there are 3 or 4 other rural commercial recreational zonings that the board has approved.
Getting to what Mr. Underwood was concerned about as far as the legal issue is concerned. Now, Mr. B's, for instance, he has come back, as you know, and wanted to change some conditions. And I think it was for RVs.
It was to allow camping. Yes, sir.
So now we're going to pass or amend an ordinance that says that you can put dormitories there, and would he be able to consider doing that?
I'm not sure that would be a dorm as much as it would be a motel or hotel.
Okay.
But the text amendment says at a sports facility. So it's fairly restrictive, and unless there's a golf course that's classified as a sports facility, which is not, this is the only one.
Okay.
And he's still got to come back for a special exception to get a dormitory. All we're doing is saying there's such a thing as dormitories. And I think that accelerates it more than anything else, because now he's got a reason to do it.
And I do think we have to look at the fact that
the
hotels in the area, or that area, certainly is not conducive for people to come in to stay in, and it's not giving us a good reputation.
More of a short term.
You have signs of food, a lot of talk about. Those guys are
Okay, other questions, other concerns? No. I guess not.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr.
I'd make a motion that we approve the text amendment for dormitories.
Second.
So moved and properly second, that we approve the text amendment as presented, right? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, it takes us to new business. The first reading, text amendment 07-2015, sign regulation.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have before you tonight some proposed zoning amendments to the sign regulations that are related to planned development districts, specifically the planned shopping center district and the planned industrial park. Under the current ordinance in a planned development district, these sign regulations are both very restrictive and require a special exception permit for any sign that a business may want. An example of our current regulations was the YMCA, where they had to get a special exception permit from the board for a sign the size and height of which was already prescribed by the ordinance. So on the one hand, you have a set of regulations that define the height and the size of the sign, so you know what you can get. On the other hand, you still have to apply for a special exception permit in order to be able to install that sign. From a shopping center or commercial perspective, that seems a little restrictive if we're going to require every potential business to have to get a special exception for a sign the size of which is already identified in the ordinance. We also felt that the size of the signs was probably a little too prescriptive as well, given the size of a planned shopping center. So what we have crafted is a set of sign regulations to try to give a reasonable amount of signage for shopping centers, both the out parcels as well as the buildings within the strip center itself. So we've actually added or increased the signage that's otherwise allowed in the PSC district from our current regulations. We're also proposing that you eliminate the special exception process for every business that comes along, or every shopping center or every industrial park, provided they meet these sign regulations. You can still apply for a special exception if you want signage above and beyond that which is specified in the ordinance, subject to the standards for the granting of a special exception permit. But it seemed somewhat harsh to require every business to have to come in for a sign if it meets the sign regulations. These amendments are in part driven by the Ladysmith Crossing project, but the deficiencies in the ordinance are not limited to that application. It currently exists in terms of the SE requirements for any business sign, and we think those need to be addressed regardless. So we bring this to you as a first reading. The board has already authorized the expedited hearing process for Ladysmith Crossing. But we brought this to you tonight to try to keep all of the zoning changes consistent so that you can hear everything at your second meeting in January.
Board members have questions.
How does this affect places like Taco Bell on Carmel Church that wanted a bigger sign that
it doesn't
didn't get one? This will be very specific just to this particular project?
This is specific to the PSC. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Seeley?
I guess I would, and well, there's time to discuss it, but I'd like to look at what potentially might be there and what sign sizes we're talking about.
Sure.
Because it just, I've been a number of places and the signs can be mind-boggling. Size, shape, colors.
Understood.
And I just want to, I read this and was like, but is there something we could do? I mean, take something, put some buildings on, and tell us what signage that would actually be allowed?
Yes, sir. We'll do some graphics, some examples based upon the ordinance. I will tell you that the applicant is requesting a special exception for even more signage than what we specified here. So we can do some graphics for you which identify the signs that would be allowed under this proposed ordinance as well as what they are requesting.
That would be great. Thank you.
And we'll have that for your public hearing. And if you want us, we'll try to have the examples to you beforehand so that if you have any questions, we can be prepared at the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
So what we need to do at this point is to go to first reading?
Our request is for you to authorize a public hearing at your January 26th meeting.
Motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so moved and proper second that we would authorize public hearing for text amendment 07-2015. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Closing board comments. You have any, Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Chairman, I abstained on that.
Oh, okay. Motion 5 in favor and 1 abstention. Okay. Any closing arguments? Any closing comments? Oh, I'm sorry. Calendar. I guess I'm not here. Who can I say?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you can see we included your capital projects report. In the radio system, you see we're pretty much 93% complete. That goes live tomorrow at 9 a.m., I think, is the cutover.
I think it was that. He sent out an email for it already.
Yeah. So that's good to get that project pretty much finished up. Ladysmith Fire Station renovations are moving along fairly well as well. As far as the calendar, Friday afternoon, 3 to 5, we do have a reception planned at the OC for Mr. Akers and Mr. Taylor. 5 o'clock is the Bowling Green Christmas Parade on Saturday the 12th. Noon to 2 is the employee holiday luncheon at Bowling Green Town Hall. That's Wednesday. Then on the 17th, 4 to 6, reception for Sharon Carter, and that will be in her office where she wanted to have that. And then on the 21st, 4 to 5:30, there's a swearing-in ceremony in the circuit courtroom.
I can't come. I got something to do.
Okay, you're going to be busy. Okay. Offices are closed on the 24th and 25th, and of course, then again for January 1st. We do have the annual legislative reception at Lowry's. If anybody's interested in going, please contact Mrs. Hall to get that reservation set. And then our organizational meeting for 2016 is on the 12th, 6 o'clock in this room. And we, of course, can go out further, but it's we'll cover some more of that on the 12th.
Sounds good. Okay. Any questions? Okay, closing board comments, Mr. Thomas, do you have any?
Other than that, unfortunately, I will be in New York this week, and I will miss the reception. But I will.
You can send you a donation.
I will send you. Well, I can give you my donation right now. But I do want to say to Mr. Taylor and Mr. Akers, it's been a pleasure serving with you these years.
Mr. Black?
No, sir, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Underwood?
I just wanted to echo Mr. Thomas's sentiment. Certainly have enjoyed working with you and Mr. Akers over the last 5 years, so appreciate all your help, guidance, and look forward to continue relationships. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Akers?
Mr. Chairman, I think I've pretty much said all that I need to say and have to say. I certainly wish the new board well, and I wish Caroline County well. I want it to be very strong and a very valuable county, and so I'm wishing it well as also.
Thank you, Mr. Akers. Mr. Sealy?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
And I, too, again, thank you again and again for all that you've done. It's been a really an enjoyable situation, and I'm going to miss it. Good luck. Thank you.
We need to go to closed session. Can we go in the small room to do the closed session rather than up here? Because I think it'll be easier to hear.
Okay, let's.
I'm going to make a motion.
Go ahead and do the motion.
I make a motion that the board convene in closed session pursuant to the acquisition of real property, contracting the legal exemptions under 2.2-3711A3, 2.2-378A29, and 32237A7 of the Code of Virginia, to discuss the potential acquisition of real estate for the county's wastewater system and a contract, therefore, where decisions in open meeting would adversely affect the county's bargaining position or negotiation strategy. The second would be contract and legal exemptions 2.2-311A29 and 2.2-37A7 of the Code of Virginia to discuss terms of a performance agreement with an economic development perspective, where discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the county's bargaining position or negotiating strategy. And number three, the personnel exemption of 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia to discuss personnel matters relating to new duties, compensation, and personnel made necessary by the adoption of the newly adopted property maintenance code provision.
Okay. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly second that we would go into closed session under the just mentioned codes. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All in favor, I'm sorry, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, motion carries. December 9th, Board of Supervisors meeting. Motion to come out of executive session is in order.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Been moved and properly second that we come out of executive session. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Mr. Thomas, do you agree that we only discuss those issues that we went into executive session to discuss?
I so certify, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Black?
I so certify, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Underwood?
I so certify, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers?
I so certify, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Sealy?
I so certify, Mr. Chairman.
And I so certify as well. All right, we need a motion to approve the performance agreement as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Been moved and properly second that we approve the performance agreement as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. We need an approval of the resolution for MB Auto at a cost of $400,000.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we approve the resolution for MB Auto at a cost of $400,000. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously.
We need, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we promote Kevin Whiteman to grade 27 as the Virginia, according to Virginia Code, to be property maintenance administrator.
It's been moved and properly second of the promotions of Kevin Whiteman as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Moved and properly seconded, we adjourn